welcome everybody to this live podcast. Thank you for joining us. It's so what is it? First? No, fourth Tuesday of the month. We're almost in July, but thank you for joining us today. Today we have two hognose breeders that I've talked to back and forth on social media, and they've got some pretty good projects going on. So we already talked a little bit backstage. So I wanted to say hi everybody that's here for right now, and we're gonna get this podcast going. What's going on, Eric's more free? Thank you for stopping by. What's going on, Joe? Meteoric Serpent and Keys. What's going on? Thanks for stopping by. Thank you guys. All these people, they're from the V Unit commenting. See people starting to trickle in. Give me a second. I gotta do a give priority to my Wi-Fi on my what's it called, my laptop. I forgot to do it when we started. If not, we're gonna have some lagging going on. We don't want that to happen. But while we're talking, I'm doing this real quick. There, it's done. Like I said, thank you again for stopping by. We're gonna definitely get into hognose talk, marketing, social media, because Nate Miracle Reptiles has had a good amount of success on social media. Melo is starting, I think if I'm not wrong, it's his first season breeding, and he's got some pretty good projects that he's working on so far. So let's go. You know what? We're going to start this off and get these guys in here. All right, guys, how's it going? How things going today? Let me update this. There we go.
There you go. Good. How you doing?
Good, man. Good.
Awesome.
Like we said, we talked a little bit backstage and just chit chatted for a few minutes while the time started. But like I said, I'm glad to have you both. I had reached out to Nate first, because I've been following you probably since I started. Since last year when I opened up my Instagram for the hognose and stuff. And then, Nate, you mentioned like, hey, I want to bring on Brandon because we're working on some projects together. So to me, that was a good surprise too. I don't know how public you guys are about the, your partnership, or how many people brought it up and stuff like that. So it's good to, to bring this up. Yeah, here I'm pretty
it's
pretty glad that you guys. Sure. So we'll start off. Whoever wants to go first, tell us. What you do, how long you've been in the hognoses, and how this partnership came about too.
All right. I guess all starts Nate Miracle, and the first thing people always ask, is that really your last name? Yes, it is. So figure that's why I included in the business name, of course. But I've been doing, this is my fourth year owning hogs, and just completed my third season of breeding. So it kind of came out of a COVID thing where you're stuck at home or trying to figure out something to do to keep yourself busy, and so that's when like the business really took off. It was always like a lifelong passion of keeping and owning, but I never really bred anything until 3 years ago. So I'm still kind of relatively new, I'd say, in the game compared to a lot of people out there for sure. So definitely don't claim to be any expert in anything, but happy to share my journey and the stuff I've learned so far for sure. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm Brandon Melone, so of Melo Hogs, and hognoses are one of the coolest species. I mean, I think we can all agree on that. So when I discovered them for myself, at least 2.5, going on 3 years ago, it was like one of the weirdest things ever, because I was always into venomous species and things like that, but never actually had anyone to train with to do that, or even like the ability or know-all to even get into a specific species. So everyone, once they initially get into hognoses, they hear that they're mildly venomous, and they kind of think that that's like a pretty cool aspect of them, which I mean, we can all agree is, but it's not like to the extent of a Boega. So for myself, it was like supposed to be an introduction species that was going to get me into like more venomous reptiles and eventually to those like hot species that are like intense, like say a womp slang or like a gaboon viper. But as I got into the species and like started researching them more and more, it was like really cool to think that the United States had like such a very unique species to it that also had, well, let's say North America, because they do go from Canada down the United States and into parts of like Mexico. But to find out that like we had such a local species that had just what looked like kind of that dragon aspect of like a snake that people think it might be like a little scary looking. But to think we had that here, it was really cool. So I started researching them more and more and more to the point where it's like I watched every video on the internet, everything that Jermaine from Shovel Nose Hogs ever posted, any video I could find that Kevin Rhodes ever posted, pretty much anything I could ever find, like even on like Clint's Reptiles, like something so basic. But I just kept researching them, and it got to the point where I decided I wanted to like get my first animal, and that first animal happened to be from Jeff Galewood, which we all know. And it got to the point where I just bothered him so much with questions, not knowing like how busy of a person he was, that it got me into breeding because I was buying an anaconda het snowburst for the pattern. Like, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. Like, that's a goofy thing to do because buying a triple het animal that's because it's a conda is silly. Yeah. So he kind of got me into like learning about them. And I mean, now here we are all this time later, and I've got 50 of them that'll be breeders by next year. So it's pretty crazy.
Man. That's a good backstory you got. You know, we're gonna there's a good amount of people that just jumped on. So let's say hi to everybody. It might be some people that you guys know and your followers too. We have Boba Fettuccine. That's a pretty funny name there. I don't know if you guys know them. Thanks for stopping by. We're just Jermaine. Jermaine, yeah, Shovel Nose Hogs.
Reptilian is my buddy Richie.
Reptilian Exotics, yeah. Thank you, guys.
He's a great guy. Yeah. We got Susan here.
Susan, hey, how's it going?
Saw Jeff on
Dustin.
there. Jeff Critter.
Dustin. This is Emilio Villarino Reptiles.
Hello.
Jeff Critters.
Larry's here.
There we go.
Oh, got Eslin in here too. Hello, everyone.
DA Exotics. Blue Tongue Reptiles. Tammy. And Eslin Exotic Fire Hogs. What's going on, guys? Got a good amount of people here, starting off. And all these names are very familiar. Most of them are very familiar to myself. Especially Eslin. I'm a stone throws away from him, and I've gotten, like you said, he was the guy that I picked his brain from the moment I bought a hognose from him. It was, talking to him, messaging him, and at one point,
you're not too far from him either, right?
No, I'm like 30, 40 minutes away from him. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, his name's going to get brought up later. I mean, you mentioned Nate and I's partnership. So pretty much one of the things that one of the first projects we got started is an animal between Nate last year. He bred out a Bub's Daddy that's 66 head Xanthic. And we have Arctic Yeti, so Arctic Snow Anaconda female. And next year, those two are going to go together to try to prove that out. And if you know anything about like the potential genetics, we could hit the super snow, which would be awesome.
That would be really cool. Yeah. Eslin has some really nice Arctic snows too.
Yeah, they're awesome. I got to give credit to Nate. Yeah. Well, you sent him an Arctic Yeti too. Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
So it's like,
Brandon, I got a question because you mentioned you started looking into venomous at the beginning. Do you still have plans to go that route, or are you all just focused on hognoses now?
So with other species, it's like this for me. I think of spending the money on it, and then my brain goes to hognose. It's just, I'm not at that point anymore where I feel like it would be good for me to start getting into that. But I feel like I still will. Like, I know like that's kind of like saying two things different at once. So for the time being, I think like within a 5 to 10 year scope of things, I'll probably try to maintain just like sticking with hognoses and maybe a couple other species, because I do have them. I have like a corn snake right next to myself. I have a Honduran, and I think Nate might send me a couple garters this year. We'll talk about that, but he breeds California Reds, and it's like I think I may just stick to hognoses, but you've seen some of those in Solaris and stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty hard to deny like how beautiful those are.
Yeah, and see, like, and I understand that because there's a couple species that I want, and I mean, I say right now, right, as a pet and just to have, but like same thing. I think about it. It's like, okay, if I could spend some money on a different species, or I can get more hognoses, and like I said, it's going to more hognoses for a while until I have a good amount that I'll settle with, and then just build have extra other species just to have as pets, and but you know how that goes, right? You say I'm just having pets, and then once you've bred one thing, like, oh, let me try breeding this, right?
Yeah, I'm over here looking to try and breed the corn snake that I have, and it's like I have no room to breed the corn snake, but it's like my brain just like wants to, because it's like another different project to like kind of see what can go, and it's like I won't have the room for them. I mean, like I've got this room, and I might have a little extra room in Avery's reptile room, but it's like other than that, I don't have the room. So it's like we have to prioritize like what we do with our projects, especially like for someone like myself. Like I live in an apartment, so it's like we have to limit our space and understand like what we reasonably can keep the animals, like while also making sure that their welfare is like the utmost like importance.
Yep, very true. Yeah. So Ezra said that he bred the Arctic Yeti male to Arctic con that had snow.
Oh yeah,
we don't eggs.
Oh, he locked.
That's awesome. Quick already. Yeah.
Yeah, the Bubs boy didn't want to lock at all. We tried to pair him with a Bubs female this year, and he went into the corner and just kind of fell asleep. It's like he had no interest at all. So
Heart Scales, thank you for stopping by. Said they just bought some hoggies from Nate a few days ago.
Oh yeah. Shipping them tomorrow.
Nice, yeah. Joe, thanks for Jose. Thank you for stopping by. Salter Brew. He's another local guy here that just started getting into hognoses. In Miami here. Dustin, what's going on? We got a good amount of people here tonight. If you guys, see any comments that you want to address, just just say something. Don't have to wait for me to address it or whatever, Especially you guys.
I was gonna say, like, it's hard, and I can tell you, like, there's not many people that can probably say, but it's like it's hard to feel like a project is ever finished, and I mean that in the sense that like you could have like a 1 to 3, and in your head you might be like, oh, I need like another male. And then you're like, well, I have this male. What would happen if I needed like another female? So it's like with hognoses, and I know it's with other projects too, and other species, it's fun to think that it's like so early on that we can still experiment with all of these projects and all of these like triple het recessives and these quad hets and all of these genes that like are coming out that like people are finding out about, like the cinnamon gene. Like there's not much of that, but I'm sure like at some point, once some people start breeding it, like those will pop out. Like there's just so many random
and that's I'm pretty sure that's a lot of the same reasons why, especially newer people like us, right? Nate, you said you have 4 years with the hognoses now, right?
Yeah, third season breeding.
Third season, so like why we can get into it and still make a wave in the hobby and stuff like that, because it's still such an early stage with hognoses and making combos or even discovering new morphs. Just pop up in a breeding that you never expected or something like that. Nate, you got into, I don't know if you have mentioned why you chose hognoses.
Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, I started with my first breeding was with Ackie monitors, and the one issue with that is they just take up a lot of space. So I was looking for something else that I could do more of without having to build 4x2x2 enclosures for each one. And the hognose are a perfect species for a breeding project because they don't take up a lot of space, or for pets in general. I mean, so I saw the potential there. From a marketability standpoint too is one reason I got into it. I mean, I think they're the perfect pet snake to own, for multiple reasons. So I've never owned hognose growing up. And one benefit I have is I live 20 minutes away from Jeff Galewood. So that influenced that maybe a little bit. And it's a little dangerous too, to be able to just go pick up a snake. And he's helped tremendously too. But so yeah, I mean, I think they're just, they're cute looking. They stay small. They're easy. So yeah.
Nate, let me take you off the live. You lagged and now it's dragging. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, I've been glitching, it seems like.
Hold on.
Is that better?
Let's see. Is it better? No, it's still like you might have to exit and then come back in to fix the glitch.
I can do that.
Yeah, if you want to do that real quick.
All right, we'll see him in a second.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I'm gigantic now.
Yeah, man. We'll go there.
All right, perfect. Yeah, Eslin just said that hognose still have a lot of room for growth, not just with a few new genes being proven. There's still lots to learn about them, which is like so true. Like there's so many different things. Like there's so many genes that. Oh, there's Nate. He's back.
Is it better?
Yep. We're good now. Yeah, we're good now.
I'm still.
No, there's so many genes that are like different that we have no idea what they are. Like for example, Nate, that guy. No, but all right. Anyways, so I tell him all the time. So RBE, it's one of the most random genes in my opinion, and it's like nobody really. All right, so people like the morph market thing says it's dominant, right? But the way it acts more like a polygenic. And I know a lot of people are going to hate on me for saying that, but like I've talked adamantly with like a couple people about it. And it's like, so for RBE, when you breed an RBE to an RBE, it looks a little bit nicer, right? Like the babies, generally, you get better RBEs, more.
So here's my thing with the RB. I think you get a lot more. Like, it's like
so when
majority of the majority you're gonna get most of the clutch is gonna be RBE.
All right, so when you breed an RBE to an outcross, some are nicer, right? But then a couple are like, all right, like so they don't look as nice, right? So with polygenics, So with polygenics, Lemon Ghost or Extreme Red or Purple Line, you outcross those, and you're gonna get some nicer babies in those clutches that might look more like those nicer polygenics, and then you might get some crappier ones. So in my eyes, for them to be doing this, it means that baseline snakes, these lighter, brighter snakes, are just like wild types that got line bred to be that much nicer. And it's just like a polygenic, kind of like a blonde, over it being like a specific gene that like always is dominant or has something of such,
Well, and that's interesting, different points of views, right? And that's like one of the great parts where it's still a lot of guesswork, I would say,
entirely guessing.
Figure it out. But I was talking to some of the other guys a few days ago, and Rare Genetics, right? They're starting to do shed testing and all that stuff. And it seems like they're going to be able to map polygenics, recessive dominance, and all that stuff. So it's going to
help a lot.
It's going to basically take the guesswork out of trying to figure out these genetics and stuff like that once they're able to map it, and actually be able to tell if it's a polygenic or if it's a recessive or incomplete or dominant.
That would be nice because for me to be able to actually like say definitively, like, because I could be 100% wrong. Yeah. What did Eslin just say? He brought some RBE up. So let's read that first.
Yeah. He said, so RBE is a very unique gene. We have had different results each season breeding RBE to RBE. Same goes with Purple Line. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so random. So it's like the more people, I guess, that get into it and I have these genes and actually try to focus on seeing if there's something there. I mean, I guess until, like you said, Rare Genetics, like it'll be nice though. Like that kind of takes the fun out of it though. Like where the aspects of like, so I get that it'll help improve projects, but then there's also those people that, will just shed test everything to make sure like everything is what. So it kind of takes out the guessing work, and it's a
Are
little
you
bit
a
of
gambling man? Are you a gambling man, Brandon? It seems like you like to gamble a bit.
well, I'm gonna have single condos that are 50 het snow, so I
He
will be
likes to
gambling.
breed possets to possets. That's his jam.
That's his. That's
Yeah.
his.
No, I definitely do weird project ideas, stuff that most people aren't going for. I mean, there's a lot. I can't say like every single project I'm going for is unique, but like I definitely have more interesting ones that I plan to do just because like a lot of people aren't doing it. It's just like why not? It's just cool to try and explore them.
Brandon's
So we'll talk more
problem
about
is
that a little
that he can do all this stuff in his head without the morph market calculator.
Oh, I don't need a calculator.
So that meme where the guy's like pointing at all the different things. That's like Brandon.
Yeah,
That's
the
all
crazy
day.
history guy. Yeah,
That's just him normal on any day you talk to him. He's like, I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and put this. And I'm just like, dude, I don't even know what you're saying anymore, but go for it.
I have 3 whiteboards on this wall right here that just like have weird scribble writing that make it look like some crazy dude is like working with snakes. I mean, hey, if you don't love it, it's just like,
yeah.
It's just like it's so cool, and it's like such a privilege to be able to work with the species. It's like,
no, I agree, man. Like and like hognoses got introduced to me by my daughters. They started watching Snake Discovery, and one day they came to me like, "Hey, we want a hognose snake." And I was like, "We're not getting more pets," And then once they told me that, I was like, "I've never heard of a hognose. Let me start researching it." And then I started looking. I was like, "Oh, they're pretty cool," I started looking at the morphs and all that stuff. And then we're like, "Okay, let's go to the local reptile shop and let's go pick one up." That's how it started.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just one more.
I feel like all of us, even in like the last 3 years, so like hognoses just now are hitting like triple recessive and getting like to the point where people are getting like insane genes and like crazy stuff, like to the point where it's like 5 gene crazy visual. Like I know John Rice, Fathom Hogs, the other day just hit some crazy stuff from some permafrost clutch, and it's like these animals are incredible looking, and to like know that once you get to that point the animal still looks different, it kind of gives you like some hope that like you can keep combining these things, and we might have like 5 gene recessives that actually like have a visual difference to the point where it's like it's just cool because like in the last 2 to 3 years those triple recessives and like these kind of bigger gene animals have been coming out, and all of these cooler morphs. It's just awesome.
And that's a good point. Like when is there too many genes put into one animal and starts just looking the same thing, like just another pink snake or just another muddled gray.
That's
another pink snake.
Or like another gray, different shade of gray color, stuff like that. And we've seen other different type of snakes that have gone that way, and it's hard to tell what you're getting out of it, or it's hard to identify when it's a 6 gene animal, right? So I'm interested to see how far we can get there with still being, like you said, being able to identify, okay, this animal does have this, and differentiate between the 3 and the 4 gene animal, right?
I wish something would come out where there'd be like more patterns or something, that instead of color variations, because like I said, it's going to get muddled eventually. No, there are some, but I'm saying like just something crazy where it just changes, kind of like the caramel or whatever, like the head stamp's gone, like things like that, which instead of just a color morph or a color change, because eventually a lot of these things are just going to look the same, and they're going to have all this genetics, but they're just going to all be the same snake look, phenotypically. So
read chat really quick.
So Jeff has a good question. If they're ever, basically putting all these genes together is going to be health issues, and I think it is a possibility, right? Because we are breeding certain genetics, and those genetics can have certain health issues. I mean, there's not a for sure. It's try to put it together and see if it does. But it is a possibility, just like happens with like any other animal, like dogs and cats, when they start overbreeding that same look, it also breeds a look, but also gives the back genetics too.
But like you said, though, I mean, once it gets to the point where you've got that many recessive genes, rare genetics is going to be able to tell you how many actually it has. if they get to the point where they'll be able to determine most of these multi-gene animals, like you were saying. So we'll be able to know, I mean, for sure, but it's like,
is it worth it?
said,
Is it worth
yeah,
is the look
exactly.
really worth doing all that, right?
Exactly. Like how much different would adding another gene be if that another gene neurologically affects the snake or like makes it different? Like that extra look might not be worth it, you know?
Yeah. For sure. Nate, and I think somebody mentioned this earlier in the chat. What was your first hognose that you actually got?
I think the first one was from Jeff that I picked up. It was a purple line Superconda het albino, and it ended up being het exanthic also. He didn't sell it that way or didn't know. It's kind of a bonus thing.
Yeah, I forgot that.
So you just paired it to a snow?
I paired it to a het snow, yeah, and I popped out. I don't think I got any snows from that clutch, but I got exanthics.
Okay.
That was when we popped out a ton of exanthics out of nowhere, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, that was my first one from Jeff. I think was that one. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, mine was first.
That's really cool. Jeff. Like, you know, that's where, like, you know, back to what Brandon said, like getting those little surprises on, you know, these certain genetics, you know, and I get it where it adds excitement, it adds a little bit of more enthusiasm and emotion to the process where there's little surprises here and there, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Can you imagine, you know,
makes it so
breeding?
Fun.
Yeah, can you imagine breeding a pair and finding, you know, a new genetic or something like that?
I think I saw someone on Facebook with that the other day where they bred an Arctic to a Conda and they popped out a lavender. So they were like, okay. And it was a lavender. So it was like, okay. Like that would be very nice for that to happen. Mm-hmm. I know someone else, I think they had like pos het mercury, or they didn't even think it was going to be mercury. They had lavenders too. And they proved like het mercury. And they were like pos het albino too, but they didn't prove the albino, I guess. But like, imagine getting mercury's accident. Like things like that are like and when you see someone else get that, it's like the coolest thing, because you're like, man, now there's more of those, like whatever it is out there in the world, they can raise those up. And now like that project just had like a new leaf just spawn out like out of nowhere, because like that person just got some crazy hets to pop out. Like Jules Toth, Swiss chocolate, like he got those from a pet store that were hets, and then he bred them and they came out with Swiss. Yeah. Like that's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm a fan of the Swiss chocolate, because the Swiss Exantic looks
cool.
To me is beautiful, because it's closest to getting to like a black hognose, a Western hognose, you know.
Yeah, those Swiss super condas. Yeah, those ones are cool. Yeah, really cool. A lot of them. Can't wait till there's actually more over here though, and more people working with it.
I think in the next maybe next 2-3 years we'll the next 2 years I think we'll definitely see it a lot more people's hands. You know, because I had Jeff on my podcast a couple months ago, and I know he's producing some this year, and he said that he's possibly going to release some to the public this year. So that's pretty good to know.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's good to know that somebody's actually working the project and willing to release some to the public too.
Yeah, I know a couple other people stateside with it as well. So it's like, I'm going to say, I'd hope there's at least 5 to 10 people with it over here. So it's like, it would be nice if they started all coming out of the woodworks too. Yeah. It's like, not many of us are experienced with importing and exporting. I know a lot are, but like not too many of us, beginning at least, know the ins and outs of that.
Yeah, let me see. We got a question here. So Heart Scales asking if any of us are going to put breeding guides or care guides available based on your experiences. Personally, you know, I have my YouTube where I've been just logging basically my process and my experience with the hognose. And so far, you know, this is my first year breeding. So far, my process has worked. You know, I got my first hat clutch to come pip. Was it Saturday? I just put them away this morning into the bin, and then there's another clutch that started pipping again this morning. You know, after that, it seems like every couple 5-6 days I have a clutch doing that. So, and then I do plan to also do like FAQ whenever I send the what's it called, a hog nose and sell one and stuff like that. I plan to do all that good stuff, um, based on the knowledge that that I'm gaining, and I'm gonna give it a lot of credit to Aslan because a lot of what I've figured out and done is through him. So I got really lucky being able to buy a snake from Aslan and then building that relationship and being able to pick his brain and run with it.
Yeah, that helps for sure.
Yeah. Did I know you guys are both close to Jeff, right? Or no, Brandon, you're not close to Jeff, but you started talking to him pretty often after you bought a snake, right?
Yeah. So my first snake was from him. It was the Anaconda Het Snowburst, the male that I have, and it got to the point where, I mean, I don't know if you've ever bought a snake from Jeff or anything from Morph Market, but if you read underneath his policy, it says he will respond and help you with your snakes for life. Well, I took that way too seriously, and I started just messaging him like every day, just asking him more and more questions because I couldn't find anything really online more. Like I told you, I watched all the videos and stuff, but I couldn't find more information that was like current, like exactly what was like new in the hognose industry. And he never told me, hey, stop messaging me, you're annoying. So I just kept messaging him to the point where like I was like, all right, asking these questions, and he would teach me more. Like I give all credit. Anytime anyone asks me anything, I say, all right, it's all information from Jeff. Like Jeff's been doing this for 2.5 decades. Like that's quite a long time to be doing it. So I say that anything that I repeat is more than likely what Jeff has told me, and don't quote it verbatim because I could be misquoting him because I don't remember everything he says. Like he's so smart and intelligent with the like how he analyzes like what to do with the morphs and like how to go about these polygenics and these lines to the point where I mean, imagine Lemon Ghosts 20 years ago and him deciding that he would and they keep getting nicer. You guys, like, I mean, you see how nice they've been getting, just more and more yellow. Imagine 20 years ago, you had a wild type and you just decided to line breed it and you got to this point. It's like stuff like that. It's like, it takes like someone who's dedicate their, like his entire life to it to actually like continue to like only focus on it. Like it's incredible how he does it. And it's like, I know a lot of people think like, it might sound like I'm friggin' fanboying, and it's okay because it's like
I am.
No, it's yeah, because it is. It's like,
but you know what? Like
breeders, you got to give credit to, but
yeah,
it's
with that like line of Lemon Ghost,
mm-hmm.
because he decided to take that step. Now we have Lemon Ghost and we have the Arctic, and a lot of like
crazy genes.
The Arctic. I honestly, can you imagine hognoses without the Arctic gene?
No.
Like sunburst like, without super Arctic sunburst, like, Arctic sunburst.
There's so many people that are like so significant. Like I know like the lavender gene, like so many, like I know Dan Eby. Dan Eby discovered sables, and it's my favorite story. It's my favorite story in all of hognoses because sables wouldn't exist if Dan Eby didn't have to go take a pee. Did you know that?
I think I've heard different variations of the story. Yeah.
So a year prior to this whole event, Dan found a wild female or a wild male, and he took it in. So a year later, and this is not like, hopefully he's okay with me telling the story because I was told this from Jeff, who has spoken to him. But a year later, his cousin wants to go racing around on the new car he bought. So they're racing around on a road, same road where they found the female or male the year before, the specimen. And at one point he has to go to the bathroom. So he gets out, finds another species or specimen, while he's going to the bathroom, takes it in, breeds them together, and you have sables. So if he didn't have to go to the bathroom at that exact moment, sunburst wouldn't exist, storm cloud wouldn't exist, super Arctic sun.
Any of the sable, yeah.
So many crazy genes. And it's like, it's insane. And for that one moment, I don't think hognoses would be as popular as they've been because like sunburst is like the most popular, I think, morph, and it will be for like a very long time just because of like colors and whatnot.
Currently, I think first it was a snow, and that snow is still very popular. You know, because I mean, albino gene, you're talking about the sables and stuff like that, but like the albino gene, where we would be without the albino gene stuff that and they're albino is the most common what's it called, genetic mutation coloring in any species, right?
Mhm.
So that and this, look, I'm gonna pop up this comment from Eslin because, and this is one of the reasons I decided to pick his brain and follow your vision, follow what you love and what you really like, and
Oh,
we'll
exactly.
run off of that. So like, Nate, what was your dream snake to produce when you saw hognoses?
Definitely. I mean, I got into the snows. Was I think my second snake was a snow female. And I wanted to do like make a super Yeti or something like that.
Mhm.
So that's why I still have a lot of like het snow females, because I was building that project up, and I had a lot of failures with my snows from year one. I had a female die, a Yeti female die egg bound. I had another one had renal kidney failure when she was like growing super fast, and the vet thinks it's just a congenital thing that happened. And so I had two females die. I had then this year one of my main breeder males turned out not to be het albino, and he bred to 3 of my females, so that was a huge disappointment. So it's kind of funny, like my dream snake, how I wanted to get into this, just never even happened in 3 seasons because of all these things. But that's just how it goes too, that's breeding in a nutshell for you. So you just got to keep plugging
hopefully
away.
we can get some next year for you. Like that's the goal. Like,
what about you, Brandon?
It's all persevering. So the snake that actually, so it's gonna sound lame, and I know Nate's gonna hate me for saying this, but Lucy's. Like, I saw Lucy, and so Nate's not he says it's just another white snake. Like, it's a white snake, and I understand, but they're really dang cool.
Oh, it's a cool looking snake. I just don't want to breed it into things and
not get anything else.
Yeah, just make white snakes out of it. Yeah,
that's what he says. Yeah,
it's an awesome looking snake on its own for sure.
And it's funny because I feel the same way about it. Eventually, I'm gonna get Lucy into my projects, but right now, I'd rather get a double recessive, some Arctic and stuff like that into my collection, and then later on, I'll get into the Lucy and stuff like that.
See, for me, it wasn't even like a project thing. Like, so my Lucy girl, so my season, like you guys already have your pips, you guys have your eggs. I just paired less than actually probably, what's the date? 20. All right. I paired a month ago. So I'm expecting eggs. I mean, I've got 5, going to be 6 gravid females, but 5 gravid females for sure that are going to be laying within the next month. So it's like my season's so much further behind people, and it's okay. Things happen. And for me, it's just, I'm excited when the eggs come out and whenever my snakes pop out. It's like, it's not doing it for anyone else. It's just something for myself.
And you mentioned that to me, I think a couple of days ago, we're like, oh, you guys are there's people that are getting pips. And it's like, I think I said the same thing to you. It's, man, you're going to get there no matter what. It's no point of rushing it. You're doing it when you're doing it, And I think that's the best part of it. I want to bring this up because Dustin and Susan got their first pips today, and they hatched out Lucy's.
Yes, congratulations.
Congrats, guys.
That was awesome. I didn't message Dustin yet. I messaged Susie.
Yeah, pretty cool to hatch out Lucy's, and he says they have the best personalities.
Now, my question is, Dustin, are you being facetious, and are you trying to say that they are absolute demon spawn normally, or are you actually saying that yours have good personalities? Because Lucy personalities, they're normally like the worst. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, they have the most gigantic attitudes, and the het Lucy's do. But I mean, my Lucy girl. Yep. All right, there you go. He said it. Total a-holes. Yeah. No, genuinely, they're pretty awful. But my Lucy girl, she's very nice. She's actually calm. It's weird. She'll hang out with me. She won't hiss. She won't musk. She won't curl up. It's weird. She's a very cool snake. So I got a special one, but I don't think it's going to pass down. I'm just going to get a bunch of angry offspring.
Yeah. And that's interesting to see that, Nate, I guess, you don't have Lucy's stuff that I don't have any Lucy's. I
wish I could bring her out. Sorry.
Yeah. I've worked with some at Edson's place and stuff like that. I've never really paid attention to their demeanors and stuff. But I'm gonna pay more attention now to see what they're like, and I'll be interested to see because I
Does he
think
have
some
males?
traits.
He has males.
Yeah, he has males.
They're
Yeah.
worse. They're way worse than the females. Oh, they're so bad. Usually they're drop feeders. Like
My
they won't eat.
Yeah, my guys that are very defensive are my lavenders. I have two lavenders. They're very defensive. I don't know, it's just a coincidence of that, but like that's interesting to see. Like there might be some traits that get passed on within that genetic or whatever it is. You know, and I think little by little, as more as we work on it, we'll start seeing more commonalities on that within a certain genetic or something.
Yeah, a lot of people only breed for looks, and they overlook some of those other factors. Like personality or things like that.
Yeah, good
sure.
eaters, all that stuff, right? Like that's
Handleability. Like people want to have pets, they want to handle them, and hognose are notorious assholes. So
yeah,
breeding a line of nice ones would be a good thing too.
Yeah, like I'm not.
That's one
from F1.
One of my my goals is I have two daughters and they're very involved in it. So one of our goals is to, with all our hatchlings, is to try to handle them more, to try to see if I can get them more used to being able, especially even as babies, to be able to handle. So whenever they go to a new home, they're easier transition and stuff like that.
Sure.
I got an extra 4 set of, well, I'll say 6 because my wife will come in here now with the babies. They're obsessed with them, right? Like we are too. And they'll come and handle them. So hopefully, little by little, they'll get more used to actually having hands on with them.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's a good. Hopefully, that transfers on, and then we can start continuing that cycle of having more docile. My little one got bit this morning. My daughter picked up the hognose that's it's hers, and she's always comes out with mouth open, ready to eat. So my little one was like, I hope she doesn't bite me today. And as soon as it's 7:30 in the morning, get ready for camp. 7:30 in the morning, I hear, it bit me. Yeah,
and like one of the that brings it to a good point. Like a lot of people don't know about how to actually remove a hognose, and it's like it's pretty simple. I wish I had a soda can, but
my 7-year-old does it. She gets bit and she just pops it open. Pushes on the rostral scale, and I always tell people, if my 7-year-old can do it, anybody can do it.
Exactly. Like it's so easy to remove them too.
It is.
It's like if they're biting on you and people think they're going to hurt them, that rostral scale is like a thick bone connected to their entire skull. You're not going to hurt them. If you just slowly pull up on their rostral scale, like they were saying, and then like slow, like a soda can, just slowly add the pressure, they're going to let go. And if that doesn't work, if you massage their tail, they're going to let go as well because they don't like that. That's an irritant. But more than likely, just start with the soda can method, and it's very easy to get them off.
Say, Heart Scale says something. I guess in Russia there was an experiment with fox, and they had a personality trait together with genetically. So it seems like genetics and personality depend on their. That's interesting.
Yeah, the color.
Yeah, lemon ghosts, pretty pure ones, tend to be a bit sassy too. They have a bit of an attitude, so that's fun as well. All of the pretty ones, right?
Yeah, man. I guess that's why it's it's one of those things, right? As humans, we like things that are in common, that are not easy attainable, right? That's why we like all these weird colors, and I'm not saying weird, but they're beautiful colors, really. They are. And then, we talked about your first, combo morph you want to produce. What about the, for Nate, what combo or morph have you produced already that you're very proud of, and you're like, and you saw it come out the egg, it was,
Yeah. Well, this year I had no snows out of 4 females that laid, and 2 of them doubled. So that project was scrapped. I'd say I had a huge lavender year this year. I popped out the red lavs, which came out of nowhere. because all the females are very light. Like it didn't look like the parents at all. So I'm interested to kind of work with that and see if I can develop that a little bit further. So that was kind of cool because that was an unexpected look to them. And then other than that, I got right now I do have like a clutch. My last clutch left in the incubator is a possible sunburst or Arctic sunburst clutch. I didn't hit on the first one, so looking forward to that. And then the only other not crazy, but I guess the best morph I popped out was like a BBC last year with the Arctic sable conda.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool.
That name, man.
But yeah, it's been a rough year for me for hitting goals, but I hatched out 130 hatchlings, and so I was happy with that, and some cool stuff that, project animals and stuff like that. So next year, I guess is gonna be the year.
Yeah.
We'll
next year you're gonna have all the snows, Yetis that you want.
Yeah, I got some females coming up too. I picked up some from Eslin, and we're working on like a Mercury project and things like that. So I got a lot of stuff in the in the back burner right now going. So hopefully those will catch up.
And then Brandon,
talking about
what
Lucy's.
what do you expect it to? What do you really want to see Pip this year from any of your pairings? And how many pairings you have so far?
Oh, so far?
Yeah.
Total that I'm gonna do. So total, I think I have nine total, and
okay.
The ones I want to see Pip the most. I mean, that's tough because like I've got a potential. So I've got the Anaconda Het Snowburst going to a Het Storm Cloud Het Snow or 50 Het Snow. So might get some Snowburst stuff in there, or might get Storm Cloud. So that'll be awesome. But also I paired a Bub's Daddy female to a Lav Toffee. So Arctics and Arctic Condas, all triple het lavender toffee albino. That's gonna be exciting because those are like foundational project snakes. Those are gonna be huge. And Nate and I we have a joint project as well with that. That male also bred to an Arctic albino female. So it's gonna be a lot of cool stuff coming out of that pair, and it's gonna be nice to have triple hets that like no one else is really working on. And it's gonna be nice to kind of have the ability to breed like my Lav Toffee male, which is the breeder, to a female that is an Arctic Conda triple het. And then, I'd be able to get like an Arctic Lav Toffee Conda that would be 50 het coral, stuff like that. It'll be fun to work around the project.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the lavender toffees, the Cleo's colubrids hatched a good amount this year. Mm-hmm. So I was looking at them. They're pretty
they're
nice
so variable.
Looking. Yeah, they're good looking animals too with the combo.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite male. He's just really cool. It's the weirdest thing to say, but they really are. She mentioned the name lilac. They're lilac colored. If you look at that color, if you Google it, it's that color, and it's just a perfect name. Like I talked to John Rice about it before. I think it's been circling around a little bit where the name, like everyone kind of just communally is like, that's the perfect name for it. So I really hope it sticks. I hope everyone just calls it that because it's a perfect name for it. And it's easier to say than lavender toffee belly.
We had a question here from DA Exotics. We covered it a little earlier, but he was on how long everybody's been on into the hognoses. Nate, you said this is your third breeding season. Brandon, how long you been into hognoses now?
Going on the third year after this. Going on third, 2.5 at this point, going to 3.
Yeah. Myself, I'm getting into 2 years too. So I'm the newest out of all of us here. But
still,
I hit the ground.
Still a better breeder than me. I have none. So
we'll see, man. You might produce some really good stuff this year,
I'm excited either way.
I hit the ground running, and my wife always gets on me for my type of personality I have. Is like I go head first and think about certain things later. Yeah. And just have fun with it and get to this point, right? Like always figure it out. My wife is like, you always figure it out somehow. So Nate, do you have kids? Yeah, we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, 2 boys.
You have kids and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How are they? I don't know if you want to say their age, but how are they with the hognoses and helping you with reptiles and stuff like that? Are they pretty involved or?
Not as much as I would hope. They're in the sports right now. They're 12 and 14.
Okay.
And they'll help out if I ask. They'll hold them and whatever, but they're not. They don't share that passion really. Like we'll go out herping together and they'll enjoy doing that. Kids' days are built, today are built a little different. I can remember growing up just loving to go out in the outside and catching stuff, and we didn't have the technology and all that. So I feel like it's a different world out there for sure. But so yeah, not as much as I'd hoped for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm too young to have kids.
And I mean they're 12, 14. We're all males. We've been boys, at 12, 14. You're distracted by a lot of other things,
Yeah, they're gonna be chasing girls here more than snakes.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Fine.
For sure. Yeah, man. Hopefully when they're a little bit older, it settles down and you keep doing with this and then eventually, becomes a family business. It'll be pretty cool, right? To keep doing it for a while.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have a niece who's 7 and she loves coming over and holding them all, and she's great with them. So it's kind of cool to see that. So
how did and this would be a question for both of you, how did your family react to you like having snakes and then taking the first step further to breeding them and having all these snakes in your house, with like your wife or your extended family? How did that go?
It went okay. It's my my girlfriend. I've been together for 10 years, so it was pre-snakes, but it was kind of like I said, the passion kind of came out after COVID. So it wasn't when we were dating originally, it was nothing going on with that. So I kind of caught her by surprise, and she's like completely not a reptile person at all. Like doesn't want anything to do with it or see it, but she's been very supportive and of the business and all that. So she puts up with it. But all my snakes are like tucked in a like a furnace room out of sight. So you wouldn't even see them if you came into our house. So I do a good job of hiding everything. It's not out in the open as much.
Gotcha, okay. Yeah.
So it's I'm like a one-man show over here, pretty much.
Gotcha. Yeah. What about like your extended family, like close family that maybe comes over and stuff like that? Have you ever tried to like get them comfortable with the snakes? People that are definitely afraid of snakes, stuff like that. Have you worked on that?
I have had some friends come over who thought they were terrified of snakes or just the idea of snakes in general, and so it's kind of cool to be able to expose people like that who've never ever had the opportunity to even hold one, or the old thing is like cliche, like, oh, they're slimy and gross or whatever. So it's the first time they do hold it and they're like, wow, this is pretty cool, and it's not as bad as I thought. So that's always a cool thing to do with someone, and that's kind of like why I do like the social media stuff as much, is to expose snakes to the outside world more and show people that they're cool and fun to watch and grow and have and hold, and they're not gross. So it's so yeah, I find joy in that side of it too. You guys hear me okay? Am I glitching out again?
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
You're going in now. I mean, it's glitching a little bit, but it's constant. There's no major lag.
Hard scale. What's an atom? I'm not completely keen on. I know a lot of morphs, but I'm not sure what that one is. Do you guys know?
I forget.
I used to know. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I forget what it is. Yeah. And then what about you, Brent? I know your girlfriend likes hog noses and stuff like that too, right? Like.
Yeah. So Avery.
Did you get her into into reptiles or the other way around?
No, God no. All right. So Avery, so she's more of a skink person. So she works heavily with fire skinks, and she has some of like the only genes that are in the world. I mean, there's a couple other people with them, but she's pretty much like one of the only people on the forefront of those projects, which I never knew what a fire skink was, or really skinks in general, until like besides blue tongues with her. But it's like the fire skinks are super cool. And it took me so long to get her into like more snakes. So she bought her first snake. It was a hunter and milk snake, and that's the one to match mine. And then I finally got her into hognoses. So it was like kind of a process, but she's been like a reptile person way longer than I've been a reptile person for sure. Like I've loved reptiles my entire life, but I wasn't allowed to have pets until I moved out. Like my parents wouldn't let me have pets, so it was kind of like, especially not reptiles. They got puppies when I moved out, which is weird. They got rid of their kids, but got dogs. But anyways, they wouldn't let me have pets. So it got to the point where when I finally like had my freedom and stuff, I was able to actually, you know, go out and pursue these things, but never actually thought it would get to the scale that it's on.
Oh, we dropped him. It sounded like something dropped and then he went out.
Right.
Yeah. So Heart Scales, he says albino, toffee belly, caramel, Evans hypo.
Oh yeah.
That's interesting because toffee belly, caramel, Evans hypo. There we go.
They're all albino.
Yeah.
That was perfect timing. You guys were right.
We heard something drop and then you were out.
Yeah, because so I have like a, what's it called? A little switch that connects to the webcam that like actually has a backup light. So when I hit it, it just killed the cam. So here we are. Albino toffee belly caramel. Oh my goodness. All right. What does that look like? Has someone hit that? Obviously, if they said,
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I think someone hit it, yeah.
Yeah, they're all some form of albino, yeah.
You know. I mean, that's just a toffee glifrost. So it's like, if you think about it, those, what's that, 3T? Wait, is 1 T positive? I know that's 2 T negatives, which probably cancel out, and then 1 T positive. Does that look any different than an albino frost does? I'm kind of curious.
I'm gonna have to. You know what? I can. Let me search it here. Adam.
This is what I do with Nate all of the time. I'm just like sitting here calculating stuff in my head.
And that, you know, that's similar to like, I would say, a albino toxic, right?
Yeah, like come on. I think.
Yeah.
I hear that you can tell in person, which I'm excited to. I would be excited to see. But I have not seen an atoxic in person. But I do know they look very much like snows, if not identical.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
again,
that's what I think.
I've not seen one. I haven't compared
It's very
them,
close to the
so
snow.
I can't say for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anything online, at least on images, for anything close to an atom.
She said she has a pic of it. I don't know if it shows up on the.
Yeah, it might not go through for us.
Adam has.
I don't see it. I can't see it, but.
Yeah, maybe they do that so you can't post random pictures into the chat.
Yeah, we won't be able to see. It's just we won't be able to see
that
it.
way. Yeah.
If you want to share the link, I could probably get the link and bring it up so we can take a look at it. Cause I'm interested to see what it looks like.
Yeah, oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Because when you're getting into quad heads, like we were talking about, it's like how much different is it, and how much like of a benefit would it be to add the gene versus something else?
For sure. Yeah. And then, like, you know, we'll go back to like the family and the reptiles and stuff like that. Luckily, my wife's an animal person. Last year, it's funny, we went to Daytona show for the first year, and she ended up coming home with a, you know, she was walking around. She's like, I bought a bearded dragon, you know. So we got a bearded dragon, stuff like that. So I have family members, like same thing. My mother wasn't big in, especially into reptiles and stuff like that. So I didn't really. I had an iguana. That's where like the line was drawn. Like I was able to get iguanas and turtles, and I had to keep them under my bed. She didn't want to see them or sight of them because they were out of the house.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I'm originally from New Jersey. I live in Florida and Miami. Now that she talks about coming down to visit, she's like, "What's the nearest hotel to your house?" Because I'm not staying in your house.
Right.
You know, and
you should tell
like,
her.
She has,
just the fact that like if any of those snakes are out, it's a big problem, and you're more worried about it than she is. Like that's definitely what it'll be.
Yeah, it's a good way to keep your mother-in-law away.
No, that too though.
That's true. Yeah. You know, I wanted to get when you guys talked about a little bit of like some joint breeding that you guys have stuff going on. How did you guys get into the joint breeding, and how did this partnership develop?
It just from talking originally, and then the thing is kind of seeing what John and Mitch from Fathom do is kind of modeling after that. Like working on projects together can get you further, faster, and trading animals back and forth. Obviously, instead of having to buy animals is always a nice thing too. And or broadening the like genetics, instead of having to like line breed or breed to parents or whatever. If you have two, we can switch different genetics back and forth to strengthen some of that.
Yeah, like so you said, you have 4 snow females or snow females, and I've got 4 here, so it's like 8 different lines, and we could do that many. It's like the benefit of having that much, it just outweighs it, because like a lot of albinos, I know a lot of us have talked in chat and stuff, we mentioned it earlier, but because it's the most prevalent trait, there's a lot of them that have issues. So being able to kind of broaden the albino gene and kind of try to outcross it and not have so many of them go towards like these unwanted traits would be nice. So it just benefits I think it benefits the entire hobby for us all, like being able to just have so many different like genes, because at the end of the day, it's like it's not benefiting us anymore to have healthy animals, like, because people will always buy morphs because they're morphs, but like at the end of the day, it helps that like breeders like ourselves and the other breeders that are bigger and stuff are able to do all of these outcrosses. That way it keeps the hobby clean and fresh, and we're able to all kind of like do this stuff. Myself, hopefully. I can't say that we all, because I haven't yet, but hopefully this year.
So have you guys met in person yet? It was all through like chat and stuff like that you guys did? Okay, cool.
Yeah. We've talked about even, well, Brandon never moves to here, to be next to his fanboy, Jeff.
No, I'm his fan.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
right.
So, you got it backwards.
Yeah, but no, like open up a facility or doing it on a bigger scale. And that's one thing that's holding me back too is space right now. So that's definitely something maybe in the future. But
I'm from Rhode Island. They're from Ohio, so it's like that would kind of defeat the purpose of like the living across the country thing. But it would also, I mean, at that point, the collection would be large enough where it'd be easy to just maintain it. Because we could probably, I mean, honestly, you could at that point, you could have like a personal home collection for each person, and then like a joint collection that you both monitor, and that way you technically would have 3 separate breeding groups. So it's like it would all. And then like that would be like a third person. Technically it would just be the both of us, but that would be a third person because of the collective. And then having 3 different collections, it's like being able to maintain that would just be beneficial, I think. And Avery is Jeff's painter, as you guys talked about earlier. I don't know if we mentioned it live, but Avery paints those gigantic hognoses, like the playing card and the King of Hogs for Jeff. So it's pretty beneficial.
And Jeff said it. He's hogging her. And I think, he's got a couple projects that he's working. So I know people are going to probably ask, like, exclusive. How can we get in contact with her and stuff like that?
It's very difficult. I live with her, and I'm still on the wait list. So,
hard scales. If you could send me a DM on my IG, I have it up on my computer, and I can bring it up from there if you want. I'm really interested to see it.
I mean, she loves ideas and working with people, though. So if anyone has an idea, you could shoot it to her, and she might have the little idea going, and she might just have a creative knack. It's Aves of the Apes on Instagram. So go check that out. Also the Jeff art, because I mean, seeing it in person is a little bit different. Like when you're standing next to it, and it's like I'm 6 foot, so it's like standing next to a painting that's like up to my shoulder that like she hand painted with like a fine brush and made this look like a playing card. I'm just like, I could never do that. That's why I have to like breed the snakes so that they make the art, because that just doesn't come to my mind like that.
It's funny because like now the Instagram, I think it's the reels or the posts, you can select categories or something like that, right?
Haven't looked.
And so like you can select like categories like reptile. There's like animals. There's like art and stuff like that. And I always go and I was like, it's visual art. I'm selecting visual art too for because you can select 3 categories.
Right.
because it really is,
For sure.
be able to see all these amazing colors and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, even like so many people ask me what my favorite hognose morph is, and my favorite thing to say is just wild types because that's what we owe it to. It's like that's the best morph. Like that's what it is. It's like if you ask me which one I would keep, it would be my leucistic. But I was saying wild types are like the coolest thing. No, but honestly, like for someone to have found these in the wild, and I mean genuinely, there have been people that have been doing it for like 40 years, 50 years. Like the Platt study, I think, was done in 1969. So people like finally, at least at one point, started getting interested in them. And then somehow along the way, people like Jeff and Brent and and I'm sorry if I'm leaving out any people's names that started off, I apologize. But these people that just started off finding these morphs and just continuing to have the passion to breed them. It's like we owe it all to like these people that came before us to even know like that these things exist. Like my first snake was an anaconda triple het snowburst, which is like if you even mentioned a incomplete dominant triple het 20 years ago, people would think you're crazy. I'm sure ball pythons were a little bit further along, but in hognoses, I don't know exactly when all of the recessives came out. I probably should verse myself on that a little bit better. But even like 20 years ago, I can guarantee you nobody thought it would be to the point where it is now. I mean, no one thought a super Arctic sunburst would look as crazy as it does. Yeah, I think they're awesome.
So I got this picture up. I'm sure here, and I think there we go. To me, it looks like a really nice Arctic albino. I mean, unless the picture, unless the camera's not picking up certain colors and stuff like that, What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, maybe like a toffee glow. Even it's.
No, I can see. I know it's a frosted toffee albino. I know that's what it is. Like, so the thing about all right.
Do you know what it is because you know that we're looking at it?
Well,
If
well,
you
no,
just
all right, so
yeah.
all right. So one of the cool things that I love about caramel is those face stamps are always the same, and if you look at its belly, it's completely like stark white. So I couldn't tell you if there was albino in there because toffee belly can also make their eyes red. And I feel like if it actually had albino, I mean, I'm sure it does actually have it. And it's just weird to think because toffee and albino are both T negative. So albino, as you know, like you said, it just completely removes all of the melanin. So there should be no melanophores. So toffee only removes a little bit. It's like on a scale. So like imagine you have a shader and it goes from like 20 to 80. So you can move it along that shader, what you get with toffees. So 20 to 80% T negative, like so different like variations. You can get high expression or low. But it doesn't make sense if you add the albino, which gets rid of 100% with toffee. It shouldn't technically look anything different than an albino because they're both working on the same T negative. So it's like it's weird to think that it could actually look different. So it's like if that is what it is, and like they can like say that that's what the genes are, it's just cool to think that it doesn't look pink or albino. Like it's different. It's just weird. But how much different does it look than a toffee frosted?
Yeah. And then, back to that early conversation we're having, like once you start doing those quad heads and quad visuals, like where do we get at?
Yeah.
Somebody's asking to talk about your setup you have behind you, I guess, on like your rack and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's not bad.
Somebody looking to start off.
Which one? Where are we looking at? This way?
Yeah, you can see that way. That's one at least that's what you can see in the picture. In the video.
Okay. That one's pretty simple. So that's just some snakes that I'm growing up. So the way I keep it, that right there it's pretty so I don't buy snake racks. These are 6-quart tubs. Well, those are 6-quart. Those are 7-quart. And then at the end, there's 16. So there's just heat tape that's going to run on the bottom of all of these. And I still have to buy another levels, but I just didn't feel the need to right now because I don't have more snakes. But once the hatchlings come, but it's just bins and then there's heat tape underneath it. That's it. It's not much. It's just a cheap Home Depot rack that I can sanitize. It's very easy.
is there a reason why you're not doing actual racks? Is it like, more cost effective for you and stuff like that instead of doing racks, or it's just the way you want to set it up differently?
Well, I mean, so for instance, like with a rack system, this right here, I don't have gloves. So this right here is a small bin, but this is my leopard gecko. I'll pull him over. This bin also is on the same exact shelf, but at the end. So I could fit 6 of the purple bins. I could fit 5 of the blue bins that are medium, or I could fit 3 of the sub-adult bins. Because like so those are 16 quart. And then I have another red rack that's over here that has all of the adults, and those are 32s and stuff. So that's a little bit bigger. But it's just, for myself at least, it's convenient. They all just have heat on the bottom. It's not stuck to them. And if I want to have 2 of sub-adults on a level and then put 3 small bins next to it, I can. If I want to have 3 sub-adults on a level, I can. If I want to have 6 hatchlings on a level, I can. So it just makes it easy. I don't like being confined to the point of like, oh, this rack's only for hatchlings. And then it's like, all right, I bought this rack only for hatchlings, but now I can't adjust it. And now I got to buy a rack specific for this. So it just made it easy for me.
What about Nate? What's your setup? You're doing racks and stuff like that, like PVC racks?
Yeah, it's all homemade PVC for the hatchlings and the adults. It's just if you're handy, it's far cheaper than buying anything out there. And the problem was getting racks before too, even so.
That's very true. I had one on hold for 9 months to the point where I was like, no, I wasn't even joking. Like, I'm not going to say whatever company it was, but I had one on hold and I spent $2,000. And I was like, I messaged them. I was like, hey, if there's like not any rush on like what I'm doing, or like, is there anything going on? Like, if not, like, I would appreciate like if I could get instantly refunded me, like within like 10 seconds of emailing them. Which, like, to me was like, I'm only ordering 1 rack. I know there's big breeders who are ordering several, so they're probably like, well, just put this one off. Like, they got someone who ordered like 40 of them, and then I'm the one guy who ordered 1. So it's like, for myself, and like Nate said, it's like pretty impossible as a smaller like to get a rack. So it's like I know actually Susie and Dustin, they made those crazy good racks. I think Dustin's the handy one, but like them to have that vision to do those, it's like. They're like, those ones are nice. Like I wish. So I mean, I subcontracted for WB Mason for a little while, but I can't do that. I don't have the mind to do that. So I gotta ask him, but it takes a special skill to do that for sure.
Yeah, and I know they've mentioned it before, and like Dustin, I think works or has the machinery to be able to cut out all this, these special parts and stuff like that. So that's another thing. You can be handy and put things together, but you don't have the machinery cut all these extra.
You don't have a $100,000 mill. You can't. Yeah, exactly.
But you know what? What I did was, like, I have PVC racks that these are homemade. Actually, these I got from Eslin. He was upgrading stuff like that, so I got these from Eslin. And then I have some Sea Serpent stuff and some Reptile basics.
Yeah, Serpents, they're good.
Yeah, they're good, and to me, they're local. I can drive and pick it up.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. So it's pretty easy. If I need a part or a tub, I can drive up and pick it up.
Man, Florida sounds great. Besides everything about the government there, like, oh man, it's like a reptile. It used to be the haven, but now, man, it's like
it's an ongoing battle. We just gotta, reptile people in Florida and nationally just gotta stay ahead of it and support like
USARK, everyone. USARK.
Yeah, man. If everybody should have, try to at least get a membership. There's people out in the hobby right now that if you don't have a membership, they'll buy you a membership. I know Gary Constricting Addicted, I think. He said it when all this Florida stuff was going on. He's like, I'll buy everybody, whoever needs a bronze, hit me up and I'll help you out, get the bronze membership and stuff.
That's cool.
Earlier, we had Bosa. He's a ball python guy here locally for me too. And last year he did a grab bag for Christmas, and a couple of ball python people donated 3 or 4 ball pythons, and he did like a little grab bag for kids that were looking to get into the hobby. And they had to basically do like a little quick book report on how to maintain and take care of a ball python. And then they picked out the best 3 reports that were done. And then once he picked out the animals, he asked if people would be interested to donate to be able to, for these kids to get USARK memberships. And I told him, since he's local, I was like, I'll sponsor one of the kids and get them a USARK membership.
It's awesome.
So I think stuff like that, it's very important that we do, where it's just helping, especially the younger generation, be able to learn more about reptiles and support each other. What I was getting to, like with the racks, was for my quarantine rack, I have it in an office across the house. And what I did, I just got the PVC, like the plastic storage racks from Walmart, put heat tape on it, and then buy the same bins that you have back there. And whenever I have a quarantine animal that comes in, I just put it there, and then it's away. It's cheap. I don't have to buy a whole rack to, like you said, to be able to quarantine 1 or 2 animals. So my quarantine, more than 1 or 2 at a time.
Right.
So I think that's pretty good. Where somebody that's starting off, you don't need to go and buy a $300-$400 piece of rack to be able to start off.
And
I think
that right there.
Yeah.
So that right there is only 1. So because of the height, the way I set this up, I buy a second one, and then the shelves are going to go above that. So the poles go to waste on the second one, but it fits 10. So it's going to be able to fit between 50 to 60 hatchlings or 30 to 40 subadults, which, I mean, for most beginner breeders, even with hatchlings and subadults, that's enough. And that's in a 6x4 right there.
Yeah.
So that's enough for pretty much anyone.
Yeah. But you said 50 or 60 hatchlings, right? You said you have 9 females that you're breeding, 9 pairs?
Yes.
Look, that's what I said this year. I have 9 females.
I'm getting another one. Don't worry.
Okay, 8 of them gave me eggs. 1 reabsorbed, and I have 157 eggs in the incubator.
Yes, that's awesome. Yeah. So
my
idea, I'm like,
I bought 1 rack, and I was like, hold up, I don't have enough room.
Yeah, no, I'm like the Debbie Downer guy who's like, all right, if I only get 4 to 6 eggs this season and they're all the worst morph, how I was like my project's gonna go. And then I'm gonna be the guy, like, I mean, you have that many eggs. Nate has, I think, what are you approaching, close to 200 this season, or 150 with everything?
Yeah, it was 100. By the time these other ones hatch, should be like 145 or something.
Yeah, so my plan is to make like another one like that. So even then, it'll only be like 120 that I can hold max. And that's still not enough, as to like both of you guys said. So it's like I'm going to get overrun more than likely and have to end up putting something in the other room.
Here's my advice, though. You're not going to want to open up 100 bins with lids on them when you have hatchlings. It's a pain in the ass. Yeah. So it's easy to pull out, drop, put that pink in. If you're opening lid by lid after 100, no way, man. Ain't happening.
Yeah, but the thing that's nice about them is just clips open and flips. So it's not terrible.
I don't care.
You know how
it takes me 2 hours to feed my hatchlings. It's gonna, you have to unclip every single one of them.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm the weirdo. I'll sit there and just, I'll sit with my snakes.
But hear this, Nate.
40 at a time.
You gotta think about
2 hours sometimes.
Brandon has no children, right? He has a girlfriend and stuff like that, where like he has a lot more time than we do, right? So he can spend an extra hour doing it.
Yeah,
very true.
I'll sacrifice the extra hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep to individually sit with each one of my snakes and make sure they don't eat sandy chips when they're eating their mice, because I'm not crazy. Like, no, but seriously, like in all seriousness, I do understand that, and it's gonna get to the point where I probably will have to like get to a point where I make like a PVC rack or something similar, and it'll be not exactly how I want it, but it's like you sacrifice a little bit of space and that purpose of that rack, which a lot of people hate rack systems. A lot of people hate them. The purpose of a breeder's rack isn't to keep the animal in that rack. It's so that you can sell the animal to someone who's going to give it the adequate space. These aren't their homes for their life. We're doing this so that you can have a pet that's beautiful, that you want, and that you can take care of and love. and that it's not our intentions to leave them in a small enclosure. By the way, like they mostly eat when they're in small enclosures. When I first started them in a larger enclosure, they had trouble, and there are success stories of people having them in larger enclosures and that they eat. But in my experience with feeding, I mean, I've fed over thousands of hognoses working for Jeff, but in my experience, like here in my own home, if you put them in a bigger enclosure, they're going to most likely go off feed if you just rapidly put them into a wide open area. They like being enclosed.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, most, like you said, I have this one Hognose that he was in a 15 quart a V15 and stopped eating. I put him back. I put him in the hatchling rack. He's eating every time now. So now I'm gonna keep him in there until he's big enough to get into a bigger enclosure.
Yeah, and some people would look at that smaller enclosure that he's in right now and say that's too small. But it's like, would you rather him not eat, or would you rather your like opinion of where he's living? It's like you got to sacrifice your own feelings for the benefit of the animals. Like,
yeah, I was on a TikTok live last week, and somebody gave me that, had that what's it called, that comment. Hey, those animals aren't too small of an enclosure. And she's like, I have my hognose in a 40-gallon. So I asked her, I was like, wherever that hognose came from, I'm 99% sure it was bred and kept in a rack system before you received it.
All right, I'm moving this to show you guys something quick. All right, so can you see this female right there?
Yeah.
All right, this is a 40 low, right? Do you see how little of it she's taking up? That's a gravid 410 gram female in a 40 gallon. And she takes up maybe the space of like this. She only sits in balls in the corners of it. She moved all of her substrate over. It's like her being in there does nothing besides like danger her. And I mean that because like that enclosure right there has like vents where she can get her scales stuck on it and like rip her stomach scales off. I had an individual do it before, so I had to put like some glue over it, and to the point where it like solidified and it was like safe for them, non-toxic, but like had to like literally solidify over it so they wouldn't rip their scales, because the keel would get stuck on that and rip. So it's like sometimes these enclosures aren't built necessarily for every kind of species or things of such. Like I was worried that like it would rip to the skin and like actually cut like permanent damage. And it's like things like that don't actually get talked about with like these enclosures. It's
yeah,
like,
and honestly, like you said, us as breeders, we're going to have a different setup than my one pet. My one pet, I started in a 10-gallon, stuff like that, and it's just total different, situations, right? Where breeding and just keeping one or two pets.
exactly.
And I think most of these animals are people that keep in racks do pretty well. And is basically, maintaining them, keeping them clean is the biggest part of it, because
racks are so much easier to clean.
You can keep them clean and then feeding them, a healthy diet and stuff like that. I wanted to get, before, we get in too much further deep into this, I want to talk, because with Nate, like you said, you got a pretty good following on Instagram. You've done pretty good marketing, and, your reels caught my attention, and I started following you. That's how I found you and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
How did you? Was there a strategy, or you just started doing it and then it caught on and it's like, oh man, I'm pretty good at doing this?
Yeah, I don't. It's kind of weird how it all evolved, because I'm not the glowing personality, like Brandon is, or as you probably tell, like whatever it is, what it is, so I really had to step out of my comfort zone to do some of that stuff. But my main strategy was just kind of look what else is like reels that are being done in other industries, whether it's auto or plants or, anything, dogs, and, or just something funny I saw, and like, well, how can I put a spin on that for hognose snakes, just to make it, people watch it. And my biggest pet peeve about Instagram is really like people like, here's my snake in my hand, every single picture, like it's fine to post that every once in a while, but that just, to me, that's boring as hell. Like, I don't need to see a picture of your snake in your hand 100 times in a row. I'm sorry. Like, that just doesn't excite me. So I wanted to make it funny, and that's gonna attract a larger audience. And some of my humor is off color a little bit, or whatever. So it's I don't know, but what's that?
His snake in his hand.
Is that you? Yeah. Well, how many followers do you have, either, man? Still, no,
like almost 1,100. No,
okay.
actually, but truthfully, like, if I have a good reel on my page, it was probably because Nate edited it, made it, and sent it to me and said post this. So
yeah,
it's like,
yeah. I mean, I was an artist too, so I take that aspect and make it kind of cool looking and add that flair of the graphics or that. So I enjoy doing it too. And I had a bunch of stuff that just went viral. That helps too. Sometimes you never know what's going to go viral. Things that you don't expect you will. And there's reels I spend hours on and hours and get 1,000 views, and some I put up. Like the last one I put up, that hognose like getting his head stuck in the water cup and like moving around with it. Like I was just feeding and saw that I filmed it and it popped on and it had like 55,000 views, and I was like, that I didn't even mean for that thing to go viral at all. But but no, like I said, my goal is really just I want to help improve our hobby and push it forward and get more exposure and show how cool the snakes, not just hognose snakes, but even just reptiles in general. So you got to make it fun and interesting and stuff that people will watch. But there's nothing, I'm not like a video editor or an actor, or I just kind of like mimic what other people are doing in other industries and see how I can put that snake flair on it, or hognose flair, or try to get a different picture outside, or so it's not always like the same thing repetitively all the time. I try to change it up, really.
Good. Yeah. So. And then you segue into my next question I wanted to ask you, like, and this is for both of you, going to be is what's it called? What do you guys think you're going to bring to the community, to the hognose industry, that's going to make you stand apart from everybody else, and what's going to better the industry too, the hognose community?
Well, the one problem in our industry, I don't know if it's like a problem necessarily, but it's a hobby. It's not a business for a lot of people, which is totally fine. But I realize when I'm like trying to contact some breeders or whatever, like the customer service is awful, or they don't ever get back to you, or they don't have a website, or it's just, it's something out of like Bob's basement, like, which is, like I said, it's fine. And, but I really wanted to come at this and treat it like more of a business. I own a gym as my main job. I've been in business for over, almost 20 years now. So I kind of applied stuff that I learned in my other business dealings and to the reptile industry, where as far as marketing and branding and customer service is a big thing. Since I'm in a gym, it's in the service industry. So dealing with clients daily and helping them, the communication part is huge. So I'm approaching it from from a business standpoint more than anything. And so I think that's something that there's some good ones in our industry, and there's some people that don't do that. So I think that's a big thing that's going to separate it. And even like moving forward and expanding, like one thing I'm doing now is, people probably know, is I send out a hide in every single hog I send out. I send out a huge amount of stickers and magnets, and going that extra mile, over delivering added value to what we're selling. So I'm not just selling people a snake, I'm selling the whole experience, or they get me with it, and they get cool stuff, and creating repeat customers and repeat business. And so I really try to put that extra effort into everything I do with that, business wise. So, yeah, moving forward is I mean, my goal is to push our industry forward too, not just be a part of it. So, whether it be an innovator or coming up with something that improves it or stuff like that, that's kind of my goal is in the long term.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing in any industry. because almost every industry, it's customer based, right? And if you're not providing the customer service, then you can have the best product or best looking snake ever, but if you're not helping your customer, then or answering your customers, you're not gonna, you know, move your company or move your snake, right?
For sure.
I think that's a very important part, customer service, and I agree with you on that. What about you, Brandon?
So, I mean, the whole reason that Nate and I kind of got into business together was the fact that like I was more of like the had crazy projects in mind and just super passion driven by the hog noses and stuff, and didn't really like know how to go about like the whole business aspect of it and like how to understand exactly like what like how to like pace myself with things, because like I got into the hobby and I like the thing is like I just love the animals. I just want to produce more animals. Like if a customer comes to me and wants to buy a snake, I'm gonna do literally anything I can to get another person to buy like a hog nose. Like I want more people to like these snakes and love these snakes. So it's like I don't have any real intention. Like I didn't get into the breeding to be like, oh, I'm go like, and I'm not hating on anyone that gets into it to do like the business aspect of it, because I'm at this point now where I mean, I hopefully it can self-sustain itself and I can continue to work on cooler and cooler projects. But for myself, when I got into it, it was because I was just some kid who was like, wow, that one looks really cool. I have to spend a lot of money on that. All right, well, I have to, and I got it, and I like it, and I think it's pretty. And if I don't ever sell a snake, I won't be mad because I have these beautiful creatures in front of me. But then it got to a point where it's like, at what point do I need to stop buying snakes and slow down? And how many will I have when I'm breeding and stuff like that? So it was more of like, I'm a crazy, have no idea what I'm doing, like just trying to like breed snakes and go about it like an idiot, to be honest, because I'm just like winging it. So then like having Nate contact me, start talking, and then just developing like the business partnership and like the aspect of like what he was saying, where it's like helping me realize that like there's more aspects to breeding and selling snakes than just like the snakes themselves. You have to give like a quality service like with it as well. And like the whole thing is like, I know I mentioned it earlier that Jeff has like you could talk to him like whenever if you buy a snake from him, and that's something that I'll do. You don't even have to buy a snake from me. You could talk to me about how, like message me. I'm like the craziest dude. I'll talk to you about hog noses all day long because I just think it's cool, and it helps me too, because I mean the more I talk to people about it, the more the information sticks in my head. So for myself, it's more or less just about like getting more people into the hog noses. And if it can be like a business, then amazing. But if not, then I get to work with an amazing species. So, I mean, it's not a bad result either way.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. And I like that you're aware that, you don't have certain parts of the full circle, and being able to, reach out to somebody or agree to a partnership to help each other. I think that's
The
very
amount of
important.
snakes I haven't bought because of him that were probably bad ideas.
Yeah.
Like several. Like I'll be like, oh my God, I need this gene. And then I'll send him like the first 6 screenshots of snakes that might be in there. And then he like would be like, no, don't do that. Like I'm to the point where I pretty much only get my animals from Jeff or Nate. And it's like for that myself, it's like it's the people I'm comfortable with, and people develop like yourself. You're comfortable with Eslin. Like I have animals from Eslin. I'll get them from Eslin, but other people might not. And it's just like people have their preferences, and these bigger breeders that are like ahead of us. I mean, Nate's getting to that point where he's going to have like 300 snakes. So that's insane. But these people who have like all this experience and all of these like just anecdotal ability.
Lost them.
Yeah.
No,
it
looks like, yeah, go ahead.
Kind of just piggyback off having like the partnership thing is part of the business also, obviously. And finding someone who complements you is kind of what he was saying. He might not have the business knowledge as much, but the guy has more passion about hognose snakes than anyone I've ever met. He lives and breathes and, like I said, does his calculators in his head, and he knows his stuff. So that's what he brings to the table too. And so it's good to find someone that you can complement and work together well with. And that's something that we're fortunate that we've had so far. so we kind of, you know, his weaknesses are my strengths and vice versa, and that's just only going to help us, you know, grow our business further for sure, more successfully. So yeah,
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. And I want to, I wish, I hope we could see more of this happening too within the next couple of years. Because when I first got into it, you know, I heard the stories like, oh, you know, there's certain groups and certain people that are not going to give you information or shun you away and stuff like that. But honestly, every single interaction that I've had within the hognose community has been positive. So I'm very happy that, you know, we have moved towards that, and all that other stuff has been left in the past. Hopefully, of course, there's gonna always be people gonna not like this person and this and that, but that's
sure.
human nature. We
Sure.
can't get that around. But I think finding teams and people that you can work with and bounce ideas off of each other is very important.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, it's going to benefit everybody, and it's going to benefit us to be able to produce healthier, nicer, you know, better animals for everybody to enjoy.
Yeah, if it's better for the
Absolutely.
hobby, then you should just, it's a no-brainer. Just do it. Like, so.
So where do you guys think the next year or two, or what's going on this year within the reptile community, with like the economy, pricing, and like just overall quantity of animals that are out there? Where do you guys think it's going, and do you guys see any trends, um, you know, catching on this year or within the future?
I think it's gonna be an interesting couple years coming up because we're getting more people in the hobby, you know, for hognose, and more breeders, and more morphs coming out too, which is going to change things. You know, I don't. It's cool chasing like these triple visuals and all that, but who's going to buy all these $3,000 snakes? I don't know. You know, so it's. I mean, obviously, as more people enter the hobby, you're going to see prices driven down for sure, which is okay. So yeah, I don't know. I think, like I said, we're kind of we're still in a growth phase for hognose, even though it's, you know, they've been out for a long time. But as far as morphs go, and so but I think we're going to see an explosion in the next year or two for sure, in the amount of snakes available and the amount of different morphs available, and the double visuals now becoming more available. You know, so all positives. I mean, that's just the natural flow of any industry, any business too, you know. So I think we're in a growth phase.
Yeah.
As far as the economy goes, I don't know how that's going to affect it, but
Yeah.
But then again, like I said, those $3,000 morphs aren't going to be flying off the shelves, though.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Well, do you think like with like quantity, right? You know, supply and demand, right? Simple economics stuff like that. With the quantity of animals that are out there, do you think prices are going to steadily drop? What are you seeing? What do you think? Because you know, we're talking about the ball pythons because that's the majority that's out to the public and stuff. Where, you know, you can go get a normal ball python for $50 or less.
Yeah, that's great.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you guys imagine a normal hognose for that? Or let's say, you
Eventually, yeah. I mean,
normal.
think about it. There's people selling pos hets for 200, 225, 100. So it's like, I've seen $175 listed for a male. So it's like, that's not that far away. That's just 3 times the price.
So do you agree on those, you know, like people keep if, you know, prices keep going down, or would you like to, you know, maybe steady out eventually, and we're not, you know, just dropping the prices all the way down to the floor? You know, and I think just because I think once they're more accessible or less prices, there's going to be more animals out there, right?
Yeah.
And what happens when there's more animals out there? You know,
well, I just looked it up. So a year ago right now, in total on Morph Market, I even remember because I looked it up, there was, I think, 10,500 Western Hognose sold. And I just looked it up now. And on total, there's 1,200 that haven't been sold, but there's 16,000 that have been sold. So just in the last year, there have been 6,000 more hognoses listed on the website compared to all of the history before that. So there's been an increase of 60%.
Sure. Yeah.
Just being, and like that's not even including all of the private sales, like because I know I buy most of my snakes, they're not from Morph Market. I ask people like if they have them, and then I buy them that way. So it's like, which is another thing that people don't know, like that people do. Like sometimes some breeders just have so much stock that they can't list everything on Morph Market or things like that. So it might help to just reach out and ask, because it's like,
or they haven't had the chance
be,
to post it. Yeah.
You
know,
and Morph Market limits how many ads you can do sometimes depending on your membership level. So some people might not even be able to post like the extent of what they have in their collection because it just isn't in their membership. So it's like things like that, but it's not, it's just variable. But I mean, for like you said, like do I think they're going to get that low? Yeah, because I mean, all of these people, if you're going to have pos hets and stuff like that are just these normals, and you don't have anyone to buy them, and you have a huge pos het clutch, I guarantee you someone's just going to off-sell them to some big company, and they're going to buy them, and then they're going to sell them for cheap, unfortunately. But it's going to be what it is when you get normals with pos hets. But I do hope that like these higher end morphs, I hope they don't crash, but I hope they come down. So like, for example, like storm clouds, I think they're very cool, but it's a double recessive that's going for 6,000 to 7,000. And it's like a lot of people are hitting them this year and getting them. So I'm kind of interested to see, like, if someone lists one for 6,000, is someone going to try to go, oh, well, I'll go 5,000 because $5,000 is still a lot. So it's like I want to see what happens because there's a lot of these genes coming out that people haven't posted before. So.
And that's where I'm getting to, like, you know, when is there, you know, like you say, if it's somebody's posting for 6,000, is somebody going out there and cutting the price half and doing it 3,000? You know, like, where is there? I mean, it's to every individual person that's going to post an animal board. Like, overall, is there? Do you think, as you know, we're talking about business and stuff like that, as like a good
integrity
practice, integrity and stuff like how you know, where would you personally bring down a price to and stuff like? What do you think? Have you thought about that, or you haven't gotten those thoughts yet and like that far in?
I guess it's where the market is, right? So I don't.
Yeah.
Where the market, supply and demand, how much
it's
you got.
Just it's gonna gradually go down as the more morphs hit. But you know, stuff gets cheaper, then more people buy, and then more people breed those higher end morphs too. Like, you know, like snows now you can buy for $600. So that's just gonna increase the people making them too. If there's more people more accessible. So it's probably some algorithm or calculation you figure out, the more, you know, more out there, more making, the more the price is going to drop in the future and all that. So I'm no econ guy, but yeah,
I just don't want it to get to the point where it's like ball pythons where they got 40,000 options, and it's like to the point where there's people posting so many of the same clutch. You see 16 animals that are all exactly the same, and then 16, and it's like you have to, like, I guarantee most ball python peoples have to search for the animal they're looking for and narrow down the genes, because you couldn't hit like the next tab and find things that you want. There's just way too much of it. There's too much. Like, so it's like for hognoses, if we ever get to that point, I feel like at that point, then it's going to, like, yeah, we're going to have these like lavender condas and stuff that are going to be like your pieds that are $300, but then we're also going to have like super Arctic albino permafrost supercon, like, and that's going to have the genes. Will it look anything special? I don't know, but like, you get my point. Is like those are going to be the animals that are now worth 20,000, 30, like, so it's like, it's as long as we can keep evolving, finding new morphs, new genes, new things come out, then I think that like genes, like I said, like some conda stuff, like recessive and then like an incomplete dominant, they'll go lower. They'll go like, let's say probably 800 in the next 5 years, because it's going to be one recessive and one gene. It's like, it's going to happen because lavenders right now are. So it's like they've been coming down. Like Eslin said, Lucy's, when he saw them, were 35K and he got in them at 10K. And now you see people listing them at 4K. So it's like, how soon enough is someone going to be like, even to that? Like, that's the thing, is like thousands of dollars for these animals that people can just mass produce. It's like at some point someone's going to think that they can make their fortune and just, you know, and there's too many people that are going to keep digging down. And it's like, you guys
and there is some people, you know, I mean, single-handed, some larger breeders that are producing thousands of hognoses, a year right now or more, So like you said, it's the market is going to grow. We're nowhere near to where the ball python market is, or the quantity at least, And I just hope, as not just a breeder but as a keeper, that it doesn't drop all the way low. Just because I feel like there's a lot of people that won't go pick up a normal ball python because it only costs $50. Like, that sucks to say, right?
Well,
It's like,
yeah, it does, but like that's the thing where like we can talk about people's intentions with the animals. So if you have 100 people trying to go for super Arctic sunbursts because they're thinking that it's going to make them their fortune, and then they're going to drive the market down, that's not the kind of people you want in the hobby. You want the people that want to make the animal because it's a pretty animal and they can use it to breed and stuff, not with the intention of going, hey, I'm going to use this as my cash cow. It's going to be nice that it can help pay for things and part of your life, but at the same time, you shouldn't use the animals to the point where it's like nothing but the money is motivating you. And like I've seen some people that's what it is, and it's kind of a pain in my butt. But I mean, to each their own. I can't tell someone how to live their life, but I can choose to, do mine differently.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that's where, like, I'm getting with this too. Like, it's, we talk about the market value and stuff of that. But I mean, the people producing are the people that are driving the market. Because you go see the well-established breeders within our even the hognose, and are producing quality animals, and you see their prices, and the prices will be higher than the newer person, or somebody that doesn't have a established following, or well established animals. And I think that's part of knowing the quality of animals you have and your worth of what you're producing, right? Like you said, like, you bought some from Jeff and he was accessible, so that maybe you paid a little extra for the animal you bought from him, but you gain all that information from him too, because he was there to answer your questions.
Yeah, and
That's where, like, I want people to, like, think about, like, don't just think about the animal, but think about everything that comes with the purchasing or buying or selling the hognose, is
that's
who you're
the thing.
buying it
It's like,
from.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like with
What
Jeff,
are you
I've
getting
seen
when
it
you buy it from?
firsthand
Yeah.
how he takes care of his animals, how well he like how biosecure his setup is. Like you can't even touch the floor at his facility, or else like you got to go completely take a shot. Like it's that serious. Like you change clothes all the time, completely wash your hands. Like it's that serious. It's like a biomedical facility. Like it's taken care of to the point where it gives you confidence that like no animal is going to be sick you're going to get from him. And it's like, I know Nate, like I trust Nate. Like I said, I trust Jeff. I have animals from Eslam, but it's like very few other people, because of the fact that like it's hard to trust people, especially with like cryptosis and things like that. It's like I know where like Nate gets his animals from, so it's like it's easy for me to trust that. And like I know where I get my animals from, and Jeff produces his animals, so it's like it's something I feel like a lot of people need to like worry about more. Is like if you see, and I'll just say like a Sub-Zero Super Arctic albino that's listed at like $600, that's not a deal. That's like scary.
A red
Like someone might
flag.
be
Yeah.
trying, they might be trying to sell it at because they don't think the value of it. But I'd rather spend $1,200 to $1,500 on an animal from Jeff that's the same exact thing, knowing full well that animal's going to live a healthy life and I can breed it with no worries. So it's like you got to, like you said, you got to sacrifice more money like to these people that like are higher end, so you can trust them. It's not just the animals; it's behind the scenes. It's the biosecurity. It's making sure they actually care about not like getting their animals sick.
Yeah. And when we're had Ezra on the podcast, he mentioned something like, if you go on the Facebook pages or on Instagram and you see a deal that's too good to be true, it usually is.
It is.
Dig
100%.
into it, figure out why. A lot of times it's just a scammer that stole pictures from somebody else, and or there might be somebody
They
that's
steal Eslin's pictures all the time. There's a sticker that says exotic fire hogs in the background. It's like, what are you guys doing?
Nate, have you had that issue yet? Like people stealing your pictures or trying to sell the animals and stuff like that?
Not selling it on Instagram. I had someone just take a reel that I made and posted it as their own, which is kind of funny. But I was flattered. But no, I haven't had anyone actually use pictures of my animals for sale, which luckily so far. But
I had that one
Eslin
person
has a
pretend to
really
be a scammer.
good story. Like, the person messaged him and saying, "Hey man, why are you posting my animal? I just bought the animal from this other guy."
Oh yeah.
And it was Eslin's. Yeah, it was
Animal.
Eslin's
Yeah.
animal
So they're
that this other
messaging
guy was
Eslin.
selling. Yeah, like saying, "Hey, why are you posting my animal that I just bought?" Like
Yeah.
full circle, right?
That's
So
crazy.
I really hope it was on Instagram too, because I know on Facebook it says Eslin's name, but on
I
Instagram
think
it says
it was
Exotic
off. I
Fire
think it
Hogs.
was Facebook. It was Facebook.
Oh, so if they were
Yeah.
messaging Exotic Fire, if I was Eslin, I would have just been, do you see that name in the background? Do you see my logo? Like,
Yeah, but you know what?
come
I
on,
think people, maybe see an animal and it's like, wow, I've been wanting this animal and I can get it for $300, $400 cheaper. I'm gonna take the leap, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I said before you do that, double check who you're talking to. Go on, man. Before I buy an animal and or start talking to somebody within the industry, I go to their Facebook, I go to Instagram, I see if they're on YouTube, and I try to get as much information as I can
about who they are.
before
Yeah.
who they are, who am I dealing with, because a lot of times we're sending all that money before the animals get into us, right?
Oh,
And you're
every time.
dealing from person to person. It's not like a big corporation or a big company that there is like held liable to.
Yeah.
Well, also buying your 15th snake from the 15th person is a little different than buying your 15th snake from the same person you bought all of your snakes from.
Yeah, it's a lot more personal at that point. Yeah.
There's like a trust, there's a bond. That's something we haven't talked about. Is like, so I'm sure Nate at this point has probably had a repeat customer or two, but it's like, exactly. So it's like, it's going to get to the point where it's like, we're telling people who we trust as breeders. It's going to get to the point where if we hold our integrity, we make sure we're like biosecure, we do all of these things, people will have that same look towards us. They'll be like, Nate, Alvaro, Brandon, all these other breeders that are just coming on the scene. We can trust them. Like, it's up to us to actually make sure that they can trust us as breeders too. So it's like, we need to put that foot forward, because I would like for every single person to ever who buys a snake from me to be like, wow, like, this snake's awesome. Like, I am so glad I bought this animal. It's well taken care of. No one wants to see like a bad sale, but there are those people, like I said, that are just so money driven that it's like, all right, you got your snake, whatever, I'm on to the next sale. And it's like, it's gonna, like, you have to develop that relationship with your customers and other people in the hobby to succeed.
Yeah. And that goes to like, resellers and stuff like that. And I'm not gonna say all resellers, have bad customer service or are have bad standards or whatever it is. But you do run into those resellers are just flipping the animal for a quick dollar, right? Have you guys thought about I guess probably depends on the reseller who approaches you, if you'll do business with them, or you guys are maybe dedicated to just directly to the consumer, to the customer,
Well, I mean, I've got an expo coming up in October in Rhode Island, and the plan was to have Nate just come up here and we could help vend whatever snakes that I had hatched and whatever he might have left over. And I prefer us to do it that way, kind of just sell off what we have personally, because I don't see the need to sell off to those people when they quite like literally are buying at 40% discount, like hundreds of snakes from overseas. It's like those people have their grounds covered, and I doubt they'll want to buy from us like when they have these big relationships already,
Yeah, I mean, I think my goal is to just not be that big ever where I have to do that. I mean, so you got to find that happy medium where you're producing a good range of stuff, but not too much where you have to wholesale. So and that loses the customer experience too. Like I don't know. I don't have any desire to wholesale, but I understand why people do it at the same time.
If you're on such a large scale, you have the access. You have to. Like,
you have to eventually, yeah.
Like, if you have, let's say, a clutch of extreme red albinos to extreme red albinos, and you could sell them each a piece, let's just say a number, $400, but someone said, I'll buy the clutch entirely for $300 a piece for the animal, and you've got a ton of them. It's like, then I can understand, because if you got like 50 extreme red albinos in your lineup or something like that, you're not going to be able to keep all of them. So it's like, at that point, if someone wants to buy them, understandable. But like people who breed in mass to wholesale is like that. I don't agree with.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Like the expo thing, it's a great experience. I've
It's
done
fun.
I've done a handful with Eslin, and it's great talking to people about snakes and seeing a kid buy his first snake, or even an adult buy their first snake. It's really cool, and just spending the time. You spend there about like 10 hours, usually a weekend. A day, Saturday and Sunday, 10 hours each day, talking to people, and people asking to hold snakes and just asking about the animal itself. I really enjoy it. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna bring my animals, and I'm gonna vend at Daytona with Eslin too this year.
Oh, that's going to be awesome.
So
Just make sure you got your
yeah,
vet papers and stuff. Just be careful. I heard the
yeah.
FWC is crazy still.
Well, FWC, we're local, so we have our class
So they're good with,
threes.
okay, cool.
Yeah, so like as long as you have your class three and stuff like that. Certain people sometimes when they come out of state, they get a little more hassle and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, that's like something I was going to mention. Like you said, like the whole experience and having fun and like talking at an expo and just being there. It's like when the Rhode Island Expo, like one of the reasons why I want Nate to come up and like what for us to vend it is because of the fact that like there was maybe 5 hognose there, right? I mean, it's pretty good size. It's like an indoor soccer field, completely like covered and like tables, right? So there's a good size, and there's probably like 50 plus vendors there, and maybe 5 hognose, like I said. And the one person, like we've said, we won't say names, but the one person I saw there had super Arctic Condas het toffee. Now, no one, like 2 of them, a male and a female, but on a table of other species, right? So I'm looking at them and I think they're nice. And this couple's looking at them, talking to them. By the way, these animals are priced at like $1,800 to $2,000. So not many people are going there to look for a $2,000 hognose. But these people are looking at them, and like the person behind the table wasn't really giving them any information. They were like, "Oh, these are hognose," and the person's like, "Yeah, they're hognose." And I was like, standing there waiting for this person to kind of give them more information, because I feel like that's what the customer was looking for. Was like, "Oh, like these are like, tell me about hognose." Like that's kind of what I was getting from the situation. So these people were like not saying anything, just looked back down on their phones and stuff. So I started talking to him about them, and the guy looks up and goes, "What do you know about?" Oh, he's wearing a JMG shirt, and I went, "What? What? Like, why are you upset that I'm trying to help them?" Like, I was like, "They're beautiful animals. Super Arctic Condas het toffee." I was like, "Those are awesome." I even told them, I was like, "They're beautiful animals."
You might
I
have
was like,
got a
"I'm just
sale for
trying to."
them.
Yeah, I was like, I was telling them, I was like, "I'm trying to convince these people that these are nice animals, and you're getting mad at me because I'm telling them about your animals." I was like, "I'm sorry." I was like, "These are really good genetics. My apologies for trying to tell them about the animals that you're trying to sell." I was like, "Because you weren't doing it." I'm like, but they got mad at me for it. And I'm like, all right, like I'm just going to have to get my own table and try to tell people that hognose are awesome, because the people with hognoses here aren't doing it. Like, that's the thing, is like, it's a pain in my butt, because it's like, you have animals like that on your table and you're not even treating them like they're anything special. It's like you see a super Arctic in person for the first time, you're going to go, "What the heck is that? It's a black and white snake." And these people are like, "Nah."
I got a super Arctic toffee a week or two ago from Jamie JNC Hogs, and when I first saw it, I was like, "My God,
Oh, I
it's
do too.
beautiful."
That belly,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
belly changes things once you see it. It's the coolest
yeah,
thing
it's
ever.
beautiful. So like and then I think education is the one of the most important things that we can give people for within the hobby, or just looking first, dipping their toe into reptiles and stuff like that. So like I think like Nate, you always throw in some informational bits and pieces when you do the reels. So I like that a lot. And that's the reason why I started YouTube, and then I go and I was like, I'm starting a podcast. There's no one covering hog noses really on podcasts for a consistency, and bringing people in to talk about hog noses.
For sure.
Because try to reach not just our community, but really my goal is to reach everybody outside of our community, as much people as we can.
Yeah.
Oh, it's, yeah. Even like I tell myself, like even if one more person even Googles what a hognose is, I'm like, I succeeded a little bit. Like, like Avery actually. So Avery's in the chat now. My girlfriend, her nana is, I believe, in her 70s and has never liked snakes. And there's a moon dust that we have that has a kink, and he's the most adorable little thing, and his name is Crinkle, and she calls him her little worm and holds him. And I'm like, this lady probably never would have touched the snake in her entire life, but because of hognoses, she thought one was cute enough to actually hold. I'm like, that in itself is like one of the coolest things ever. Because this is like a 70-year-old Italian woman who thinks snakes are like disgusting and like, get them away from me. And she's like, oh, my little, like, she'll ask Avery how her little, like, her worm is doing. And it's like the cutest thing, because it's like, imagine your grandma asking you how your snake's doing. It doesn't seem normal, you know. It's just a cool thing.
Yeah, but hopefully we can make it normal, right?
Yeah, exactly. People will treat scales like fluffy, you know, like they'll actually treat it.
That'll be cool. Definitely be cool. I was gonna mention something while you're going there. It was damn, I lost my train of thought when you.
Oh, sorry. You were saying with the Nana, and then having the older generation with snakes.
Oh, so I was going where it's like, if you don't put it out there, you wouldn't know how many people are interested in reptiles or snakes and stuff like that. Now that, like, it's crazy because I have my personal Instagram and I have my reptile Instagram, and just recently I started reposting, tagging my personal on my like my reptile, my closed reptile, and then reposting it on my personal. And within the last week, I've had a handful of friends message me like, "Oh, you have these snakes? My kids or my wife or I wanted one." You know, I was like, they're like, "We didn't know that you had these." Yeah, really,
which
really,
is incredible,
really
because you're going to develop a relationship and a bond with them more even further because of that. And it's because you took that little jump to just actually include it in your personal life or story. Right. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like, I mean, like you said, I try, like a lot of us probably do, whenever there's a chance to talk about hognoses or reptiles, we do it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
I think that's one thing I am guilty of, is not mixing the two worlds as much, because like when I go to somewhere, I meet people like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I own a gym," you know, or whatever. I don't go right to the, like, I breed snakes, because people are like, look at you like you're crazy, you know.
But that's the fun part of it.
Yeah, it is, I guess. But
they look at you and you're like, yeah, anyways, like, it's a normal job.
But it's still like taboo a little bit, or, you know, like, I guess we have to break that that idea that snakes are gross, and that's why it's great you're doing the podcast and exposing more, and, you know, all that stuff. But it's interesting. There's still like two sides to it a little bit, but that's good though.
Yeah, I had a little, like, same situation what you're talking about. Like, you know, you get in some gatherings and you meet new people. Oh, what do you do? Right? Like, it's such a question to gauge where people are at in their lives. Like, oh, what do you do for work? Right? But I personally, I don't have a 9-to-5 job anymore. I'm basically going to do snakes and take care of my kids and have fun with my kids now. Luckily, I'm able to do that, right?
Which is amazing, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah. So the other day, I was Saturday, we went to a local reptile show, Repticon, that was here. And then in the afternoon, we went with the girls and my wife, met up with friends and stuff like that. And then came dropping my daughters off. And then we went and had an adult game night with a handful of friends that we haven't seen in a while. And I had my closed reptile shirt. And I walk in, I say hi to somebody, a couple of people, and I'm meeting one of the husbands. He goes, "Man," he goes, "that's a cool shirt." He goes, "Where you get it from?" I was like, "Oh, it's my shirt. I breed snakes, right?" And he goes, "Oh, that's so cool, man. I like snakes, and I have a friend that has snakes and stuff like that." But it was the first time that I've really said, like, that's what I do now, right? And it was interesting to be able to say that. It actually, you know, it made me happy. It made it made me happy. It's like, I was like, cool, I'm breeding snakes, you know. And then it opened a whole conversation, like a 30-minute conversation about reptiles and snakes and how would I do it, you know, what they look like, ask me for pictures.
Yeah. It's definitely not something you hear someone bring up in conversation very often. So it's definitely a conversation starter. It's more interesting than like, oh, I'm a lawyer, like, okay, whatever, you know. Or
so. Oh yeah, no, I talked to what's it called? There was a guy when I was flying back one time from helping Jeff with this collection, and it was funny because the dude was like, "Oh, like, why were you here?" Because I was flying back to Rhode Island from Cleveland, and I was like, "Oh, I was just, you know, feeding and cleaning thousands of snakes." Like I said it like because I was in an airport line in TSA just to like say it as like because I like kind of saying and doing stuff that people think like you said is taboo and just because I think it's kind of funny like because it's like kind of like trying to hide like part of your personality is like all right like people need to accept that like this weird thing that this person does and you're like should I mention it to people and I'm like dude I'll just full on say this in the middle of 40 people right now and I saw like 5 people turn around and look at me and the guy was like oh that's interesting and I was like oh what are you doing and he's like I'm flying to Alaska to see my girlfriend and I'm like from Cleveland. I was like, so we both have some pretty interesting stories from different aspects of the world. Because to me, flying to Alaska to see your girlfriend's a pretty crazy story. But to this guy, I was just in the presence of thousands of snakes, and he thinks I'm a lunatic who needs to go to a psych ward. So it's like stuff like that is fun to me though, because we got into like a 30-minute conversation sitting through TSA talking about like his whole trip to Alaska and why he does it and why I'm so interested in snakes. And I showed this like 50 to 60-year-old business guy what hognose snakes were. And he was like, I'll never own one. He's like, but I do think that those are pretty. And I'm like, mission accomplished. It's like that little awkwardness. It might, like you said, you're afraid at first to mention it. But then once you do, none of us have had negative interactions where someone's like, ugh, like, no, they're like, oh, interesting. So
no, people are fascinated usually. So
yeah,
exactly.
And you'll get those people like, oh, it's cool. I'll never own one. I was like, okay, cool, and what I tell people is like, I was like, look, that's cool, man. And it's like, I'm not gonna push my snake on you or try to make you own a snake because it's not for everybody, right? If you really don't enjoy it, if you don't enjoy keeping one, I wouldn't want you to keep one because you might not, take care of it the proper way, right? What I tell them is like, what I tell them is, as long as I can give you some information that you can carry through your life about snakes or reptiles, and I'm okay with that, right?
Sorry, I just saw something that really annoyed me, which was like we're talking about breeders and stuff a little bit earlier. It's just these Facebook posts. We've talked about these groups where I've seen at least twice someone post, oh my God, what's happening to my snake? I have no idea what's going on. Is it dying? And the snake is in blue.
Yeah. Why are his eyes cloudy?
I'm like, what breeder sold this person who didn't even do research about animals this animal? I'm like I'm hoping it's like no one I know, because it's like, what person just so willy-nilly even ask like a couple questions at least, like when someone new is like asking you about animals, to know like that they have some knowledge. Because if you don't even know that snakes shed, like that makes me worried that you have no idea how to actually take care of it at all. And like stuff like that is like, how did you manage to sell an animal to like someone? And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that person. They're asking questions, which is quite literally like they just should have asked the questions before they got the animal.
Correct.
That's my opinion.
And like I said, I see two wrongs in that part, right? Us as producing animals is asking a couple questions to see if this person has any idea about the animal they're buying, and then it's the person buying it and doing the research on their own too, because there's some point, like before I went and bought the hognose, I did my research, right?
Yes.
And before I went and actually
bought one website.
Correct. Yeah, I went, I walked, I watched a couple videos, I Googled, I researched like where they're from and stuff like that. But I'm that type of person, and obviously we can't expect everybody to be like that. But if you're gonna take on a living being, an animal, or anything like that, then you should do at least a little bit of research on what you're taking in. So, like I said, I see there's two sides of that. I mean, two people in that situation.
For sure.
Oh yeah, they're animals, living beings, and pets number one, and then their investments second. Like it's amazing that they're able to produce more animals that people buy and help fund keeping these animals alive, and it's a nice cycle. But like you were just saying, it's just to the point where if you can't manage to make sure all of the necessary steps are taken along the path, then what's the point?
Yeah, and that's why I think like doing this quick care guides and sending quick information with a snake, it's an extra step that you can take. And it might not be that the person maybe didn't do the research, but might forgot, and if they have a quick reference, it's another step that we can help somebody, properly take care of the animal that we're producing. And I think if more people do that as well, then we'll help each other. We won't get these posts on Facebook as often as we do. Because like I said, I see it a lot too. It's like what do I do? You know, my snake's eyes are milky or frosted over and stuff. It's
Hmm.
like, oh, it's shedding, it's growing, so it's a good thing for the most part. You know, that its eyes are like that.
Oh, like I was saying, yeah, no, that person is like the only thing that they did wrong was probably just not research beforehand, but they're doing the necessary steps now. And like the problem I have like with some of those Facebook groups is like I see that someone joined it like 3 days ago and now they're giving advice to someone on the internet, and it's like they own one hog nose and they saw a video online and now they're giving advice to other people, and sometimes it can be dangerous because it's like, I mean, yeah, like John just said, John Rice, he was like they want to hear from other breeders and other people their opinions on things. And a lot of people like at the higher level, like I would say like at probably like us, we know for a fact how to take care of our hog nose like without needing to look anything up, like another, like we pretty much know how to take care of them to every extent. But there are people out there that like that don't, and they're looking for advice, and they might go on a website and see that a hognose snake needs like 80% humidity because someone threw a quick guide together online, and then they might go and look at that and then just think that that's the only answer. But then, like you said, there's people like us who will go and look around, look for different answers, and then they'll ask different people. And I feel like those are the kinds of people that are like the best for the hobby, because those are the people that don't just accept that there's one answer. They kind of want to like see exactly like what might like benefit, what might not, and like the people that experiment and try to see how like the parameters can change. Like they're pretty much set in stone, but like the subtle influences we can like adjust to see like that can make their lives better, or like the longevity of them. And just like it's cool to be able to not only experiment with like newer morphs, but be able to like see if we can make the snakes live longer, or like make them smarter by like having more intelligent snakes breed together. It's like we were saying, it's just like making healthier snakes. Like that's my goal. Like morphs are second. I just want to make cool, healthy snakes. It's a bit ranty, but it got to the point where it was like, at the end of the day, it's like as long as we can help other people with podcasts like this, which I mean, I appreciate you doing this with so many people and just getting that information out there for these people to learn. I know it might be scattered far and few between on like some of these, I guess, speeches, but it's like, it's, it's fun to be able to talk about it where like, no one here is watching the video for any other reason than the fact that they like hawk noses and they want to support like the industry, and they want to learn.
Yeah, and want to support us and stuff like that. And that with the information, like I always put on the YouTubes that I do, it's, this is my opinion and this is working for me, because you can have one way of doing something and you might need to tweak it to work where you live at, your setup for your house, your temperatures are a big thing, right? All that stuff where like there is a general guide on how to take care of every type of species or most species that are in captivity. But there might be certain changes that you need to do for yourself to be able to 100% work. And that's where like the research and the taking the time with the animal to know like, okay, my animal's doing something a little weird. There's not normal behavior or is doing something different. Let me figure out why, right? And that's where the better pet keeper or breeder sets itself apart from the rest, right? Where it takes that extra step and research that.
Sure. Well, there's differences between individual snakes too, not just your husbandry. They could be different snakes can like different things also. So there's a lot of different nuances that play into it, not just cut and dry like this or that way. It's
Yeah, hognoses don't have one personality. They might have typical traits that they each have, but like at the end of the day, they're each their own individual. So Nate was saying, it's like you got to go on a snake to snake basis, which is why some of these like smaller people giving advice that, I mean, we said it earlier, that might have one hognose, they only have one individual. So theirs might be like the meanest one ever, while someone else might have like one that comes into their hand and acts like a puppy dog. If you only have that one anecdotal experience with them and you don't have a broader scale, like people that are producing on the hundreds, if not thousands level, where you can kind of gauge like where they are, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of nuanced information, because it's like you only have one experience and your one experience isn't the broad spectrum. but by giving the information of that one experience, you could be negatively influencing things. So like it comes at like, it's kind of a double-edged sword where it's like trying to help could also come at the cost of like maybe negatively influencing someone's opinion because you don't have all of the information. If you went a little bit further, you know, kept asking questions.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, and if for some reason you get a hog nose or from a pet shop, right, where you didn't get all the information, or from a breeder, or whatever source, or maybe you rescued it from somebody else, or whatever it is, um, reach out to some of the other breeders that are in the industry, and I'm 100% sure that most of these breeders will answer you and give you at least some kind of information to help you out because it's helping out the animal. You know,
A lot of people might be afraid to do that, though, if you think about it. Like, because if you buy a hog nose, right, you're like, wow, like I finally have an animal. And then you see someone like Nate, for example, he has like 19K followers, which is like quite substantial. Some people might be like, oh, this guy will never spend the time of day to even respond to me. So it's like, it's nice for us to be able to like say, like, here, I mean, it's just like I say it all the time, but maybe I should even write in my bio, like, feel free to DM me with any question. Like, because like there's some people that might look at us and just be like, oh, they've got these nice morphs, I don't want to waste their time. It's like, no, we're open to telling anyone any information and we're trying to help. So it's like, feel free to message like pretty much anyone. You know, I'm giving full permit. No, I'm just saying. But no,
I'm gonna get after the show.
Like,
Brandon's gonna give Nate's personal number out. You can reach him 24/7.
If you want the short answer, ask me. If you want the long answer, ask Brandon.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like nail on the head.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, and John, like we talked about, John is a very well established breeder in the hognose, and he's produced some great animals, some world first, and not just about world first, but like good quality animals. I have a stable female that I got from him that actually the eggs are pipping today are from that female. So John, she did great for me this season. 13 good eggs, and like 3 or 4 have already pipped. So looking good. But yeah, just getting information from people like that, Eslin, you know, Jeff, Nate. You know, you already have 3 seasons under your belt with the hognose and stuff like that. So it adds up, you know. And then there's things that can eventually change too, right? Like as more information comes out and more studies get done, because there's very little bit of studies done on any species of reptiles, really. We can, okay, maybe this was wrong, right? And be able to say, hey, we did this wrong. Let's fix it now, right?
For sure.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. Always continue learning.
Yeah. You know, we're almost 2.5 hours in. You know, we probably could go another hour. But I wanted to start, you know, wrapping it up and ask a few questions. Sure. Where, you know, Nate, you have a gym business. Brandon, you work a 9-to-5 job, right, or whatever it is, but you work for a company. Where do you guys see yourself with like the hognoses? Do you ever see yourself doing this 100%, or is it always going to be a hobby or a side business to, you know, with your main income?
Yeah, I would love to do it 100%. No, I don't think it would just be hognose. I would probably expand into different species a little bit, and also multiple streams of income is always the way to go for any business. So it's whether it's you know, I 3D print a lot of stuff, so maybe doing stuff for hognose or reptiles in general with that, or apparel or sticker. I mean, anything. Like I've always liked to dabble in a lot of different things, and I consider myself somewhat of an entrepreneur. It's kind of a curse somewhat, is always thinking, how can I do this better, or how can I, you know, invent something new for this, or, you know, so but yeah, I would love for it to be more just 100% reptiles. And I enjoy building racks and incubators, and, you know, that's something we talked about even doing. It's like, especially these lead times, it's like doing our own line of those things. So I see myself definitely moving forward in the industry, but just expanding kind of my reach a little bit more. So
yeah, Yeah, and for the 3D printing, because I'm interested in 3D printing stuff. Are you just doing stuff for yourself, or you're doing a little bit for your customers now? And what are you 3D printing?
Well, I custom built uh, an egg tray and incubation system that I used. I
I
just
saw that.
called it the hognose hatcher. So it was made specifically to hold hognose eggs. So it's kind of the shape of them, and suspended in I use in like the water beads. So it's a completely sterile environment, no cocoa or anything. So it's that was my first season using that. I was pretty good success rate with hatching out on that. So that maybe something I'll sell eventually. I do hides. I'd give a hide for all my customers. I
didn't get a hide.
got one on the printer tray where you can't really see it, but popping up. I got my background messes it up a little bit. But I have
Put it in front of your shirt. There
I have a hide on the tray right here that I just made for shipping out tomorrow. So yeah, maybe inventing something new on the 3D printing, but it's just fun.
Yeah, I was trying to find. I know because I've seen the egg what the hognose hatcher you call it on your feed on Instagram. I was just trying to search it. I can see it so that we can, people can see what you're talking about.
Yeah, I've taken a bunch of pictures with it or some reels.
But yeah, I think that was okay. Here we go. Let me just share this so people can see too, because it was pretty cool. I like what you were doing there with it.
Yeah, it wasn't anything groundbreaking. It was just a way suspended over the Orbeez, and
it's something that worked for you, right? Have you seen any difference on like hatch rate or anything that like you're gonna for sure keep doing this in the future, or you're not sure yet?
Yeah, I had a great hatch rate. I still have this fear of putting like eggs buried in cocoa. I know like Jeff, like Galewood does it, and a lot of people do it, but like, I don't know. I just, for some reason, I'm terrified of doing that. So it's really just like a sim container is all it's the same method. It's nothing different necessarily. It's just hognose specific based on the size of the thing. So I had success, and they can hold 16 eggs each. Maybe less. Like I don't really have a lot to test. If I guess I need to do have clutches without it and clutches at the same time, and try to get some numbers on it, molding but usually only bad eggs mold anyway. But it's something I enjoy doing too. It's part of the reason why I did it. It's not like I didn't really reinvent anything new here. It's just it's kind of cool to make your own stuff and put your own stuff in it, like my racks and my incubator, and it's part of the process, of doing it all yourself, and it's more of a sense of accomplishment than it's more fun, kind of more ownership into it.
That's cool. Somebody asked, is there any, and I'm interested too, any concerns with using Orbeez, if there's any like chemicals in there and stuff like that?
I think it's all chemical free, or they're there's nothing bad in them. I don't know if they don't touch them at all, so they're not suspended in it, but
it's just holding the moisture for
I think they're non-toxic, and because they're meant for kids and stuff to you can ingest them technically, I guess, but
don't do that.
Don't try it, but
don't.
Sure, there's kids that pick those things up and go, water in your stomach. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
What about you, Brandon? Where do you see yourself in 5 years with the hognoses and reptiles and stuff like
that? So like we've talked about, Nate's more of the business-minded person, but if I can get to the point where I literally have to wake up at 2 a.m. to take care of snakes because that's just the cycle of it, then I won't be mad. What I'm saying is if I have to wake up and make sure I start taking care of animals because I'm at that scale where I have to, export overseas and manage things. I won't be mad. I don't really have a vision of it. I kind of just want to make cool, healthy snakes. And if people want to buy those cool, healthy snakes from me to the point where I can just make a bunch more cool, healthy snakes. And then to the point where, Nate, like Nate said, though, having multiple streams of revenue is awesome. But if it can get to the point where I only have to work a couple days a week, at a job, and then, at the same time be able to breed. Like, I think it wouldn't be the best idea for myself, at least in my situation, to just strictly go into just doing snakes. Because like you said, multiple streams of income's great. Also, having other things to do besides just strictly, like, because it will get to the point where it'll feel like a job if you're consistently doing it on such a mass scale. And like we were saying, it would be a job at that point. But I still want it to have like that passion aspect where I can go and do something else. And while I'm doing that other thing, I'm thinking about like my hog noses and still having that drive to like be like, all right, I'm doing this thing, but I'm like, I want to go back and like do it. So if I can get to the point where I can successfully just keep hognose, that'll be awesome. But I don't think I'll ever strictly go to just doing it. I if you couldn't tell, I'm a pretty hyper person, like Nate said. And it's to the point where I just kind of need something to do all of the time. And if I'm not doing something, it's tough.
And I get that because,
Yeah, Kitty Cyrus is here.
You have the hog noses, and then a person that have the hog noses, and then I was still working a job. Then I started my YouTube, and then I started a podcast, and we're at dinner one day, and my daughter, my older one, said, she goes, how many more things are you going to do? She goes, you're going to be really busy. I was like, well, that's what I enjoy doing it. I'm going to do it. Right? And
it's fulfilling,
Yeah.
Like it makes you feel good, which I mean, your oldest daughter, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a savage at jujitsu. That's
it's
her, right? Yeah. She's like a Brazilian jujitsu. Like I like when you were like, oh yeah, she does. And then I looked on her page and I'm like, no, she's literally winning like the Pan Ams. I'm like, all right. So she's like a savage. Like I could get beat up by her. Like that's the level of savage.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah. So like, if Nate and people that are watching, my daughter does jujitsu. She's doing this. She's 12 now. She's been doing this since she's 6-7 years old, and she's naturally just really gifted.
Awesome.
So when we were talking about like your kids doing travel basketball and stuff like that, I know exactly what you're talking about, man, because we travel, for jiu-jitsu. We've been taking it easy for the last couple months. The last 2 years, it was a lot of work, and she's really good. She goes.
I hope it was okay with me mentioning that. Yeah, she's.
Yeah. Because I mean, she's part of. They're part of it.
Yeah, she's like crazy. Like when like the scale of that though, like to say like someone does jits, like my kid does jits, and you're like, yeah, mine does too. Like, it's a very intense and respect filled sport. So it's like for her to be at that level already, man, she's gonna be crazy for like once she's fully.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter is 12 years old. She's really small. Like she's tall, but she weighs 90 pounds, maybe 90 pounds of that. And we'll go to open mats. I'll do it with her too, and we'll go to like different gyms. She'll start going with like, they're like, oh, you can roll with the kids, and I'm like, no, she'll roll with the adult females. Yeah, and they're like, what the hell,
Yeah, and she's just over there, just dropping Kimuras. Exactly. That's awesome, man. It's just so cool. So like, because like at that age too, when you get them in that, they're still limber and stuff like that, so they don't have to deal with. I mean, I'm sure you like when you're rolling, you're like,
I'm not bending my leg that way and across.
Yeah, exactly. So it's fun to see like younger generation actually so into it and be so good. So that's awesome.
Sure, man. Yeah, so that's part of like another thing that we have going on, and like we have in common. Same thing with like the hog noses. It's doing this to have more commonality with my daughters and stuff. Just have fun.
Yeah, super
fun. So my last wrap up question was, and I asked all my guests this, and it's if you guys had 5 minutes to had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you say to them?
That's deep.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about hog noses,
you got anything in general?
Anything
no, I know, but like, no, I know anything in general, but I mean, this is my opportunity to tell everyone in the world that hognose exists. So I'm taking that. That's like 3 seconds. So I could say, go to Scale Success podcast right now and look up everything we just talked about. So if everyone in the world heard that, that's 7.5, if not more, billion people. I mean, half of them won't even know what I said because no one speaks English. But like, if I could say that, Do you know how many people would get into hognose? Probably tens of thousands. So that would be 100%.
Or just reptiles in general. Yeah.
Exactly. So that would be awesome.
What about you, Nate?
I don't know. I mean, maybe I think the world needs more critical thinking, and so it's something along those lines of like we're so reactionary to everything and closed-minded, and we don't use our brains enough to actually think about what's going on around us in the world, and just to take it all in and hear both sides of stories or views. And, I don't like the term like do your own research. I think that's overused, but like just kind of educate yourself on all sides of things, and trust science, and use that as part of your critical thinking abilities. I think the world would be a better place if we kind of
don't be a headline thinker. Don't be the headline of a Facebook article and decide what your opinion is. Like actually,
you know what? And Nate, you had a little bit different from most of the other people that have answered the question. A lot of people say, love each other, have, peace, and do this. But I think that point of view would solve a lot of our problems if people were really more aware of what's going on around themselves and think how to solve certain problems. We'll get rid of a lot of other issues that, blow up, and we have issues in our society right now. So that was a good answer. I like that. Everybody, I want to right now take the moment to hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then in the description below, I have Nate's Linktree and Brandon's Instagram link too. So make sure you guys go follow them. Keep supporting everybody. Support, everybody that has USARK, that has the good, care for the community and wants to do better everybody, right? So I guess thank you guys.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Any last words for everybody that's watching?
No, I mean, we're like we said before, we're happy to talk to anyone, have conversations, even if you're not buying from us. I mean, I talk to people all the time. I'm always around, so use us and abuse us, and let's grow this hobby together, and make it awesome.
Sure, I agree with that, man.
Don't be mad at me when you start blowing up my DMs and I start sending you more messages. Like that's the thing. Is like it's a Pandora's box once you start talking to me about hognose. So that'll be the end of my closing statement. That way we don't go until tomorrow.
Sounds good.
I used to deal with every day. So
yeah. Left on red after 7 paragraphs get sent. That way you can take a breather and smoke a cigar before. No, I'm so doesn't smoke. Smoking's bad. Don't smoke.
Stick around, guys. So like I said, thank you everybody for joining in. And
thank you guys.
We'll definitely have a lot more conversations, and hope to see you guys produce some great hognose this year with your partnership. And
absolutely.
Me too.
Be able to
we appreciate
get some cool stuff out there. All right, guys. Good night, everybody, and thank you for joining in.